you a lonesome soldier doing the budget?
Am I what?
Are you gonna be the lonesome one doing the budget?
No. No. Celia will be here. Celia's taken on the teen portion of it. So I hope she'll be here.
She usually gets here like quarter of. Just wait for her husband to get home. For the kids.
Because I didn't make it tonight, so Celia will be doing it on her behalf.
All right, it's 6:30, I'm gonna call the, actually, I'm not yet. I need to call, Denise Knowles is under weather this evening, so she asked to participate via phone, so let me get her on the phone before we open the meeting.
Hey, it's
Yeah, right. Long day. Hey Denise, it's Mike and Miles, how are you?
I'm okay, let me plug in my headset, hold on.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to call to order the October 15th Select Board meeting. Vice Chair Knowles is under the weather and participating from home this evening, so, and she will probably be on for as long as she can, I'm imagining. If we go like, if it's a long meeting, I don't think it will be, but one never knows. So, the CIP that we were going to take up tonight, we're going to do on Saturday. Is that,
Okay.
as long as there's no
I sent
objection?
you the hard copy.
Yeah, it'll be easier, I think, to take, we'll just take it up on Saturday, it's not a problem.
Sounds good to
So.
me.
Okay, so the first order of business is approval of minutes from October 1st and October 8th. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at them?
Yep.
I
Any-
have.
Any changes or edits that we've already sent forward?
No.
I didn't see any, so I don't have any either, so by consensus, we will approve the minutes of October 1st and October 8th. At 7 o'clock, we will suspend the regular meeting and open the bids. We got 4 bids on the police cruiser that we are trying to sell, so we will open them up at 7, as it was publicly stated when we sent it out to bid. First is community input. I don't see, okay, it's not on here as part of it, but I think Dee, you're here for, and Celia, you're here for the rec budget?
We are.
Why don't you come on up, we'll do that right now then, so
Awesome.
you don't have to. It's not,
Are all the other ones there?
are there other people coming? I'm sorry.
Yes.
No,
Dee's
no.
coming.
Dee's
She's
sitting in
only
front of
doing
me.
one portion. Celia's only doing one portion of
Yeah,
it.
no, they're both here. Dee and Celia. There's no one else coming, right?
No, Kelly
Okay,
had.
they're both here then.
Okay.
I'm gonna move the phone closer to them so you can hear Denise, okay?
Hi Denise.
Yes, hi.
Here you go.
So, oh, yeah,
So
color, even better.
we are presenting, Sally, do you need a copy of that? So we're presenting on behalf of Rollinsford Recreation, and so as it stands, we actually do separate our budgets as far as Camp Raleigh and teen camp are concerned.
Okay,
We do separate them, but we are asking for a combined number. So I gave you what was Camp Raleigh, and you have copies here for teen if you want to hand those over. Or whatever copies you want, it's fine.
I'll hand over the big copies.
Okay.
Nobody's straining their
So
eyes.
I'll tell you the bottom line
okay.
ask is $62,004 for
Hold on, let me get
2019.
mine. Okay,
And that's
there we go.
combined.
Okay, all of them. Right. Say that number one time, please.
$62,004.
Yep. Oh, and 4, okay. So total, all right. And that's, well, I'll let you do your presentation before I ask questions. So are you gonna do teen or are you gonna do,
Doesn't matter, we can do
younger kids first?
either way.
Go ahead,
Okay, so
the younger kids.
we are Camp Raleigh Younger Kids. So, one of the good things about Sports Engine, one of the good things, although the jury's still out on it, one of the good things is we were able to capture a lot of information this year, a lot of data that I could use to pick apart, figure out what the real total income was, and come up with a bunch of models and decide going forward what was gonna be the best for us.
Okay.
So this year, what we have is, we're anticipating our total expenses to be $46,884.
Okay.
But we also went and picked apart the tuition, registrations, before and after cares. We know exactly what was for food and sales, we know exactly how much we got for programming and grants.
Mhm.
We kind of anticipate what we can count on for next year as well. And we are anticipating our income to be $46,690, which is very, very, very close to revenue neutral.
Mhm. Okay. And, okay. As, if for some reason you're not able to meet, your revenue goals, what will be the plan?
Denise,
Yeah.
would you be able to help me answer that question?
Well, if we don't have the revenue, we also will have, if we don't have the revenue, that means we have less children, which means we won't have some of the expense as well.
So some of the staff costs will go down, we won't have to have as much staff because we're not hiring the revenue. And,
We won't, yeah, we won't have as many children, so it will be less staff possibly, based on our recommendation, the student to counselor ratio.
So, but the rec committee is prepared to make, reductions or,
Right,
cut
so
back
pretty much
services or
year after
whatever.
year, we expect that, we watch the registrations that come in,
Okay.
we stay true to our staff to camper ratio.
Mhm.
We also watch very closely during the summer, if we've got staff that we feel are there and don't need to be there,
Right,
still staying within
okay,
the camp to staffer ratio.
okay,
Right,
So
but
that's
we
one
feel
way.
pretty good about the numbers, just based on last year's, what we received in registrations and staff and kids there at camp, we feel really good about these numbers,
okay.
that we'll be able to become almost neutral. It will be very, very close to it if it's not.
And,
We have increased tuition, but it's not so much that we're pricing ourselves out of the market, and
Okay.
we're not making it unaffordable for residents and non-residents. And the thing about non-residents too, is I want to point out, is that from last year to the year before, we had a 34% growth of out-of-towners,
okay,
which is good for us, because that tells us that we've got a bigger outreach now, outside of the town, and we think that could probably only grow a little bit more for us.
and they were offsetting the cost of residents, so,
Of course, yeah.
yeah.
and to help offset the Camp Raleigh budget, because these are all one big line item.
Yep,
The teen camp has some more flexibility, so if Camp Raleigh comes up short, the teen camp may be able to absorb some of those costs.
Which they did this year.
they do this.
Yeah, we have ways of doing that, actually, we've talked about it, and we're collaborating on, so one of our biggest expenses are transportation buses.
Mhm.
So did last year 3 times, we collaborated on the bus transportation, which could be upwards of $400 a bill,
Right.
which for us is big money.
Mhm.
So we can combine trips
Okay,
and save on bus transportation, but again, that's things that we monitor as the summer goes along.
mhm.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, are you all set with yours?
As long as they don't have any questions on Camp Raleigh?
Do we have last year's, it was a full budget printed in the report, Caroline, you know?
Limited lines, you have registration,
Oh, that last year's?
So that was last
Awesome,
year's,
thank
and
you.
the yellow is the actuals.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Summary, would you like that for your records?
Sure.
Okay.
So, alright, just so we're looking at about a $4,800 increase for Raleigh, and then where's Teen? Is Teen in here too, or
No.
is it just Raleigh?
That's just Raleigh.
Okay, all right. With offsetting revenue though, so, well, no.
Yeah.
Let's see, that was the actual, sorry.
That's
The budgeted amount was 50,045, and this year's 48, right?
The actuals for this year.
46
for
rather, sorry.
Expenses were 44,000.
Yeah, no, but I'm just looking at what you're asking for this year, so you're asking for less than you did last year, so,
Yes.
okay. And as we know, every year it gets a little better, I mean, it's a learning experience for
Right,
everybody, so.
we tweaked some numbers and
Right.
we were able to find some areas where we may have overpriced some things that I
Okay.
think we're good at where we are right now.
All right, Miles, do you have any questions on this part?
Nope, I don't think so.
You wanna hit I wanna do the teen part then, so, yeah.
Okay, so this year, 2018 year, we asked for 14,790 for teen camp. Our registrations didn't come up to where we wanted them to be, so our actual numbers were, that we spent was $6,516 there. So we're shooting for the middle next year, we're going for $13,518. So that's keeping the tuition flat. We are changing the registration fee to $40 if you're just doing a Camp Raleigh, or teen camp registration. If you're doing both, last year, the teen campers didn't have to pay registration because of the computer system added another transaction.
Okay.
So we're going to bump it this year so that it's it's a 50% discount. So you'll pay $20 if you have kids in both. It'll be $60 total, but $20 will go towards teen camp.
Versus nothing from
yeah.
last year. Okay, good.
So that was one of our biggest deficits there.
Okay.
We are combining one of our lines at the bottom there of income, fundraising donations and t-shirt donations is all gonna go into one line.
Okay.
So that will be $550.
Okay.
This year, we only had 10 to 15 kids sign up, and we didn't feel there was a need for a second counselor, so we only used the director.
Mhm.
That director is required to be 21 or older, because the kids are up to 15, if I can talk. And so we've built in a budget for a second counselor if the program grows, because having 15 kids proved to be difficult on occasion.
Sure.
When you're climbing a mountain or
Right, of course.
going to a beach. So that money is there. And last year, we gave the staff the day off on the 4th of July. This year, the 4th of July falls on a non-camp day.
Okay.
So we're switching that. And for the director, they have 7 weeks at 24 hours, which is the camp hours. And then the last week includes their training. They would be salaried, so they would max out at that amount of money. As you can see, we did not use the total this year for that. So when it comes to staff training and orientation, we only counted the assistant counselor,
Okay.
not the director. So if we don't hire a second person, that would be a savings there. The payroll tax is based on both of them, so that could be potentially a savings if we only hire one. However, the supplies for passes,
Mhm.
tickets and entries, those will probably go up proportional to the number of campers we get. Usually there's a set rate. However, if we can get 20 campers, we will get a group rate for many venues that we weren't able to get this year.
Right.
Transportation is based on 2 buses per week, which means that we will bus with Camp Raleigh on Fridays to the swimming pool. And that would mean that Mondays and Wednesdays, we could share with Camp Raleigh. So if Camp Raleigh is going on a field trip, either one of those days, they could use our bus, because we are not going to fill a bus. Smallest bus we can get is 75, and we anticipate maxing out at 20.
Right.
And then, the other costs we added in this year was contingency to help cover if we were to, need more funding for the passes and stuff. And we added in grant money on both sides of the equation, and then the other thing we have there is, we cut the, background checks in half, hoping that we would get a returning staff member.
I think the other thing important to note too that we neglected to mention is, as far as learnings are concerned, one of the big learnings that came out of last year was salary. So we are moving to salaries of the director and assistant director, no longer on hourly, on salary.
Okay.
So that was, we learned that there was too much overtime involved, too many hours put in that we
Right.
weren't aware of.
Right,
So
right.
we're controlling it this year by
Good.
making a salaried position.
Okay. And maybe it's too early, but have you had any conversations with previous staff to see if they want to come back?
We haven't done that yet. What we do know is that the director may not come back.
Okay,
Just personal preference, she's her path in life, we want to
Okay.
lead her back.
The teen camp director has given input into things that would make the job easier, whether
Okay.
she returns or not.
right,
And that would take some of the burden off of the Camp Raleigh director. So we're restructuring it a little bit too. Last year we had one director and two assistant directors. This year we're gonna have two directors, one for each camp.
right,
And they'll be responsible for coordinating the field trips and
okay.
all of that for their own camp. And then they would meet together when they're going together.
Okay.
Okay.
Miles, any questions?
Nope.
Excuse
The
me.
bottom line is these are nearly revenue or expense neutral. I mean, this one's $7, this one's $194.
Right, and it's a reduction in the lines from last year, right? So that's a positive too. I think every year you get better and better. I mean, and as someone who took advantage of this, I think you do a great job with, all volunteer. I mean, I think you guys are doing a great job. So, I don't think, nothing's jumps out at me at the moment. I mean, it's very detailed, so I appreciate that. We have every single thing on here.
I'd be happy to provide if needed items for expense and income line by line if you need that too.
Sorry.
And
We
the,
have, did you forward this to Caroline, just so we have an electronic copy of it, so we can,
I have not yet,
Marge.
but I can.
make sure we do that too, so we can merge it in. We're gonna be taking this up on Saturday, so.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to note about the teen camp is this year, it's not reported on here, but we did have one or two teen campers do before and after care, and that's not included in this budget, so that would be an added bonus if we do have teen campers do
Gotcha.
before or after care.
Yeah. All right, yeah. So that's okay, I'm looking at the wrong one. All right, you just said that's not budgeted, okay, so for this year for Camp Raleigh, or is it 7,500? I think we all, well, I'm not gonna speak for Miles because he wasn't here, but for those of us that were here, I think we really appreciate all the legwork that you did, especially you, Celia, trying to get grants, coming in here week after week after week, and us beating you up and telling you why you can't do this and why you should have done it this way and all that, so we appreciate. It's a learning experience for all of us, so we appreciate, we also need to recognize that you guys aren't getting paid for this, you're doing it to make sure that the kids in town have a program, so that's great, and we appreciate that, so.
Absolutely.
And we do have one more grant-funded program that'll be coming this winter,
Oh, okay.
probably at the town library.
That's great, so it's not, do you wanna talk about the other lines down here, actually? That might be good, actually. Are you prepared to talk about those?
I have a question about those that I would appreciate if you guys look when you do your budget workshop.
Okay,
It's not included, I don't think on this one, but in the 2018 budget was $300 for senior programming.
yeah, we talked about it on our budget, so do you
Is it-
have plans? It's in our working document that we're using, so.
So is it still there? Can we use it to send out a survey? Does it have to be used by the end of the year, or can it carry over into the next
We
year?
would prefer that you use it in this year, so we don't have to encumber the funds for next year.
Okay,
So I will
Get
get
that
on
out by the end of the year. And we were talking about whether or not we were going to continue that SWAG year, though. Is that something you think you need the other 300 again for next year, or is it something we could do, put like $1 in it to keep the line alive sort of thing? If you don't have plans to do something, we don't wanna,
My plan had been to send out a survey
uh,
to the whole community and ask what they would like to
To gauge
see,
interest.
right, well, that makes sense.
gauge interest in senior activities.
Okay,
I suppose you could reduce it, by 50% or so, and then we could send out, just one survey, or one letter. It's basically the cost of mailing, saying, you know what, this was the survey results, this is what we're planning to do.
all right, so we'll take that under advisement. So the other thing, though, is winter rec.
Mhm.
Do we have plans to do anything with winter rec this year?
Unfortunately, did you speak with Kelly today about that at all? So Kelly Anderson usually handles the winter rec,
Okay.
unfortunately she's not here.
Okay.
I actually
I
did.
honestly cannot speak to it.
We would like, to keep that in the budget for basketball.
Okay,
We did basketball with the kids this year, and Kelly and I spoke briefly about starting an adult league, today, for broadband basketball at the elementary school.
okay,
And we would have to pay staff to come in and unlock the door and be in the building at that time. I'm not sure if the amount would need to be there, that would be something Kelly could answer, how much she spent on refs and space rentals and
okay,
stuff.
so if you can have, we're gonna work on this, like I said, on Saturday, so
Mhm.
I'd like to get rec taken care of on Saturday, so if you could have her send us an email that we could discuss on Saturday, I think that'd be really helpful. Miles, any questions? I'm gonna say Denise, any questions too, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting you're on the phone, Denise, I'm
I'm
sorry.
okay.
All
We
right.
work together on this, so we're all set.
Well, that's what I figured, so,
Yeah, no, I'm good.
okay, anything to add, Denise?
No, I think they did a really good job this year, and we really worked hard at getting the budget down to what what it is, and, I think we're good. I think we're gonna have a great program next year.
Yeah, I can't say enough, I appreciate that you've taken the time to really look at what you did this year, boil it down, and to get the appropriation, the requested appropriation below where you were last year, so I think that's very helpful, so. And again, it's a learning process for all of us, every year we get a little better, so I do appreciate your time and all this, so.
Thank you.
If we don't have any other questions, I'll let you all, you're more welcome to stay and listen to everything else, but we're gonna move on to someone else, if that's okay with you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys, have a great night.
Thanks, ladies.
You too.
Alrighty, so, any other community input? I think we're in the department head. Alrighty. Is it alright if I let the police go first? I don't say in alphabetical order, but you've got your whole budget, right? So, we just have a couple quick questions for you.
Okay.
Unless you have like 100 POs and
No, I
it's
should
not
too.
fair to
just have
break them apart, so.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, we'll start with the good news.
Maybe I should have let you go first. Sorry.
We received the reimbursement from New Hampshire Highway Safety for $1,200 for the distracted driving grant.
Oh, okay.
So we only have two pending right now. One is the $4,000 for the EOP update from FEMA, and then we have around the $25,000 for the repeater.
Right.
The repeater is installed. We're just waiting for them to turn the switch on. And I anticipate that by the end of this week, we will have hand-delivered the reimbursement request to Concord.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll get that soon.
Alrighty.
We had two classes, two civilian firearms classes over the last couple of weeks. We had 12 attend the first one, 6 attend the second one, and they all had a great time. They raved about it, so we're planning on doing it again in the spring.
Okay.
So
So you added another class because there was a waiting list, is that?
yes.
Alright. And we don't limit it to Rollinsford residents, right?
No.
Okay. Alright.
Okay. Last week the seatbelt light indicator on the dash came on in Cruiser 74. We sent it down to Portsmouth Ford because Dover wouldn't look at it because it's obviously an airbag issue. And what we need to do is we need to replace the airbag module in that car.
Okay.
And while they were looking at it, they said, well, you need front and rear sway bars as well.
Which
So-
vehicle is this, I'm sorry?
Pardon me?
Which vehicle again? I'm sorry?
74.
Oh, this is the
That's
older, right?
that's 2016. That's the 2016, which has 134,000 miles on it.
Alright.
So this repair is going to be a grand total of approximately $1,095. So our purchase order number 1472, made out of Portsmouth Ford, for the amount of $1,095, and that will come out of our vehicle maintenance line item.
So I'll move purchase order 1472 in the amount of $1,095 to Portsmouth Ford for vehicle maintenance on Cruiser 74.
I'll second that. Okay, you can just wait about it. All right, and there's obviously enough money in the line to
There is
cover it,
money,
so-
yes.
All right,
However, I do anticipate that we still have a couple of bills, invoices that we're still waiting for from Dover, so I do anticipate that that line item will go over a little bit.
okay.
But there's money elsewhere
Where
there.
you can move around.
Yes.
Okay, Denise, you have any questions or comments?
No,
Okay.
no, I'm all set.
All right, so all those in favor of purchase order 1472, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. That's too bad. You need to see it, something? No.
Okay, purchase order number 1471, made out to AAA Police Supply.
Okay.
And we would like to order 3 cases of rifle ammunition for $507. And in that line item for ammo right now, we have $518. We actually went out last week and did our night quals, and we've actually used up our entire stock of rifle
All
ammunition.
right.
I'll move purchase order 1471 in the amount of $507 to AAA Police Supply for 3 cases of ammo.
Second that. Any questions? All right, I certainly heard you the other night, so. All those in favor of purchase order 1471, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
And I just have one other item. I'm just wondering what the established policy is in the town for paying our invoices. Is it every week, once a month, as needed, whenever we get a chance? And the reason I say that is several times this year, I've gotten calls from our vendors saying, hey, we haven't been paid in a while. And I know on at least a couple of occasions, we've probably incurred an additional expense as a result of that.
Okay.
And the most recent was last week. Generated Connection called, and it was still in the office across the hallway. So I spoke to Caroline about it,
Yeah,
and I mean, she's just maxed to the wall when it comes to this, so.
right.
And you know, and I know every Monday night, her list of activities and duties grows because she needs to research things. So I'm just wondering if there's something that the select board can do, or at least talk about it, to set up some established policy and procedure so that at least those things are getting paid on a regular basis.
Right.
So,
So we've incurred late charges?
on a couple of occasions, yes. Yeah.
What were the payment terms when we were getting a late charge?
Pardon me?
What were the payment terms when we got the late charges? Do you know? Was it net 30 or
Yeah,
net 10?
they're
or-
usually 30 days, yes.
It's usually 30 days?
Yes.
Okay.
I will ask Caroline, but we issue checks every week, so I'll come in every week and sign them, set the bills rather, okay, they authorize to pay them, so. Miles has been, since he's taken over, he signs them every week, so we're not.
And I'm sure it's just
We
a
are-
matter of that, I mean, her plate is full.
Right.
So obviously there are priorities, and what she has to deal with, and it goes, like I said, every Monday night, she gets another list of tasks to take care of.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head, I think it's more of an issue of time.
Correct, and that's what,
It's not-
I don't blame her, I blame the system that we have in place right now to take care of that.
Right. It's like you're giving me a segue, Bob, into Dandelion before, but we're gonna discuss that actually this evening,
All
so.
right, terrific.
I don't know if it's gonna be the right solution, we'll see, but we're gonna try to address it tonight, so.
Okay.
All right, so we worked on your budget last Saturday,
Okay.
and the board had a number of questions, and I just wrote them all down, and I
Sure.
said we would ask you about it.
Mhm.
So the first one we had was contracted services.
Yes.
You have, and I don't have it in front of me, but it's because I didn't fill it out, so. Your proposed budget was for, give me a second, I'll pull it out here.
40.
40,000, yeah, okay, that's what I have written down, but I want to make sure. And we're concerned, that we only had, if I can find it now, up to a certain date, we only had, why am I missing contractual services?
Page 5.
One, five. It's probably right in front of me, that's why I can't see it. Okay, there it is, okay, so, it's even green and I still, and now it's white and somehow I still. Could be an interesting conversation. Okay, so far we've brought in, about 11,600. Are we confident that we'll be able to get close to the 40,000 mark for next year? Or are we,
Well, again, that's a fluid number, because, you know, we don't know from year to year how many details we're going to have.
Right.
And how many other agencies are going to invite us. Remember, we started out 30,000, we did very well the last
Right.
couple of years, so that's why we bumped it up to 60.
right,
Unfortunately, you know, this year there have been less details, and because we've been so busy that we've actually refused a number of details as well.
okay,
So, you know, I think between 30 and 40 again is gonna be the appropriate number, but I don't wanna cut it short, because if we don't have enough
Right.
money there, then we have some issues. I'd rather have too much in that line item,
right.
and in case, in fact, that we do, you know, go almost to 40.
Right. All right, so Denise, did you have any questions about that?
Well, unfortunately, if we put too much in, then we're showing our revenue on one side. So can
Right.
we put a lesser number than what he's proposing on our side?
Well, we can, I mean, we can discuss that on Saturday. I mean, I just wanted to get
That's the only concern I have.
the questions answered from the chief. Do you, Miles, do you have any other questions around that one?
I'm
Okay.
good with that.
The other thing, well, there's a couple of things, there's not many, there's only a few. Other was uniforms. We have proposed 4750, but we've only spent 1,600. Of course, I now realize we're gonna have a new officer coming on, maybe this year,
Right.
so you may be spending a lot more,
A
but,
new officer, plus we still have, you know, we ordered the vest for Officer LaJoy, which
Right.
hasn't been paid for as of yet.
okay.
And we're getting ready to place an order for long sleeve shirts for everybody,
Okay, so is it a case that we usually wait till the end of the year to order a lot of these things?
That's one of the
Okay,
items
all right.
that we wait for to the end of the year,
Okay.
yes.
We're just trying to find a lot of unexpected increases in other, not necessarily your budget, but in other places, so we're trying to find any place we may be able to find some room to cut. So Denise or Miles, any questions?
Yep.
No, good.
Stratford Dispatch,
Actually, I don't think that was actually one of the questions, but okay. Well, go ahead.
you know, I anticipate, again, we didn't know what the numbers are gonna be, so I just rounded out to $10,000. I think it's gonna be no more than 10%, so I think it'd be safe to do an $800 increase for that line item.
Okay,
So that will cut that in by 1/3 anyway. We actually have a chiefs meeting later this week.
okay. No more. Okay,
So rather than an increase of 1164,
so
an
that'll help a
increase
little bit.
increase of 800.
Perfect, okay.
So that saves a few dollars.
Yes, we appreciate that. Conference and dues line, we want to make sure that we're putting enough in.
Yeah, I mean, that only went over by $10, so I'm not too concerned about
Okay,
that.
all right.
Oh,
And,
so this must be a typo. 'Cause
right,
It's not 3160, it's 1360 as an actual.
because we have 3,160, so it was really only 1,350? That was the,
Correct.
so that's, someone has
It's just a.
transposed a number, okay, yes, we're not concerned about $10 on cheap, so, okay. We're just saying, we're spending 3,000, you're only 1,000, we want to talk about that, because we'd rather either cut or add where we really need to, okay? And office expenses, we also want to make sure that you have enough, where is that line? Office expenses and repairs. It looks like you spent $1,700 and $31 so far this year. The year's not over, and we only appropriated $1,800, so is there just something that happened this year that, or these ongoing costs that we?
Well, in December, I'm gonna be talking to you about a fax machine, so.
So maybe
That will take up the remainder of that,
Okay,
possibly.
all right, so there wasn't anything out of the ordinary
No.
about that, okay,
No.
all right.
No.
And did anyone else have, I wrote all the questions down that you all had, and I had
So
on
I
Saturday,
think
so.
we wrote advertising that we were
Oh,
thinking
yes, that's right.
300.
Yeah, we've increased that just on our own.
50.
because you only had 150 in there, but Foster's costs close to 300 now to run an ad, so. And that's for one day, right? So when we do the,
Well, that's a 2-day.
you got 2 days
I
for
got
that
2
much?
days, yeah.
So, well, and you spent more than that then, so, okay, it's just, I know the planning board, when people have to file, it was like 270 or 290, something crazy.
You know, and that's one of those line items that we don't use very often,
Right.
so, you know, if it goes over a little bit because we have to hire somebody, and we take it
You
someplace
feel that
else,
you're,
you know,
you
because
got
there's
enough
really
from somewhere else? Okay,
several $100s, so.
all right, and I think that's all we had, but Denise, did you have any other questions?
No, Melissa, thank you.
Okay, and so like I said, we're hopefully finalize this on, your portion on Saturday, or most of it, anyways, on Saturday, so. But anything else, or do you have anything else for us? Or-
No, that's it.
I don't think we have anything, oh, we do have something else on the agenda for you. Couple of things, and it's 7 o'clock now, so we have to open the bids in just a moment, but Oak Street MOU, did you have any,
I looked at that and, I think that, because it's just written as a maintenance agreement,
yeah,
so I think at this point, just keep the police services out of it.
Okay.
I think what we'll do is we'll continue with our handshake agreement that we have with the city of Dover, at least for police response at this point.
Dover has said that they're willing to redraft it at their expense with their attorneys, so if you wanna add it in now, this might be actually the
Well, let
time
me
to
do
do
this,
it.
at the chief's meeting this week, let me talk to the new police chief
Okay,
and see if he just wants to continue with the handshake agreement or he wants to really formalize it.
okay, and, I'll talk to Mark, to the fire chief about this afterwards too, but, the only thing was budget questions we had, so, we are going to, if you don't have anything else for us, you might wanna find out how much your old cruiser went for. We said we were gonna open these at 7 when we posted them, so we have to do that real quick. Sorry, Mark, I know you, I don't wanna keep you all night, I know you got other things to do. So. All right, we received 4, which I think,
Oh, really?
I don't know if that's a record, but it's certainly a record since I've been here,
Yes, it is.
for anything we've been trying to sell, so. At times we can't give things away. I will open them all at once, and we'll look at them all at once. Got more interest in this than when we wanted to look at the space needs in these buildings. Kind of. All right, the first bid, I'm gonna read the amounts and not necessarily give the names of the bidders until we pick the actual bidder. I don't wanna embarrass anybody if they're lowball or anything. The first bid is for $550. The second bid is for $787. I like this curve we're going. Oh, no. The next one is for $500. And the second is for $557. I always wonder how people come up with these strategies. You know, it's kind of like Price is Right. So it looks like the winning bid was $787, and that's to Mr. David Arkwell of Rollinsford. So, we'll let Mr. Arkwell know he was the winning bidder. And I think that's, I don't know, that might be the most we've realized anything since I
think that's a good-
except for things we send to scrap, so. Anywho, so, thanks, Chief. Caroline, do you need to keep these for,
If you would put them in a folder, yes.
all right, we're all, thank you
Very
very much. We'll reopen the meeting now. Chief, come on up, sorry to keep you waiting. Yeah, let's talk about it. You got your, unless you've changed it.
I have not.
All right, you gave it to us already. That's fine.
You have the thing with the little cover letter and all that?
I don't know.
Do you have that?
We'll find out.
If not, I have a couple copies here. so that's fine. Just a summary, and it has there's a copy of the MOU with City of Dover for
Yeah, I'm
our
sure.
portion having it
Here's
taken
somewhere here in the
for
file.
the
Chief.
repeater. Oh, I have some if you
Oh,
save you a little digging.
Dave, you have no, watch me embarrass them. I don't know my file. Thank you.
Mark, maybe you'll email these to me?
Yeah, did you email it to Caroline already? Do you have?
I have it
Okay,
electronically.
so we'll
Okay.
forward it over to you, Salmi, for the record. So Salmi doesn't have to retype all this, stick it in. All right, so, where do you wanna start, chief?
Well, let me take care of a couple of business
Oh,
items
okay, sure.
first.
Certainly.
We can clean that part up.
Okay,
Couple POs I need to take care of.
okay,
Actually, here's the first thing, I'll give it to you, Mike, is the quarterly reports that we need to file for the
oh, for
dairy
the-
ring.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's the one for the last quarter, and
Oh,
whether
is
you
that
wanna
the sign
cross
up?
out her name, put your name in that position
yeah,
now,
probably should do that.
whatever it is you decide to do,
I will do that.
so that can go. Take care of that in a minute.
All right, do you want it back, or? Okay.
Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it right in this folder, because it's gonna go to Caroline.
Oh, it's not going to Caroline, okay, perfect.
Okay, first PO that I have is for, it's number 1440, goes to Positive Promotions. Basically, it's a supplier, and it's where we gather all of our public education information.
Yeah.
Last Thursday,
Mhm.
Friday, they were at the grade school for the whole day, doing public education for the day. So this is for those materials for that, and it's also for the stuff that we use and we hand out during pancake breakfast and educational material that we need for Firehouse. So the line item for that, we hadn't spent any of it yet, it's $750. The total for this deposit promotions is $743.54. So I think it should be.
I move purchase order 1440 in the amount of $743.54 to Positive Promotions for fire prevention education material.
I'll second it. I can tell you that I know of at least one excited little girl that got something out of it, because she wanted to know what our escape plan was when she got home, so.
Put you
Figured
to
that
work,
out.
put you to work.
You did, thank you, but it's a good thing, so. All right, any other questions, comments? If not, all those in favor of purchase order 1440 say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, all right. Does Salmi get it, or do you take them?
I'll just leave it right in
Okay.
here and then just hand the whole thing off when I'm there.
Who gets what, who takes them and who leaves them?
And the other PO that I have, 1441, this is gonna be the Frank Bernard Concrete Finishing, and this is the ongoing process that we had done for refinishing the floors within the fire
Oh, yeah,
station. We
okay.
started it last year.
Mhm.
He did the radio room and the meeting room. This one's gonna do the training room,
Okay,
where they grind it, seal it,
Yep.
and put all the finish coat and whatnot on it. So he's gonna do that. We've also managed to get him to reseal the previous two floors.
oh,
So we're gonna get another coat on those, kind
okay.
of just do the whole thing at once, because we're also gonna add into the meeting room, we're gonna add, if you wanna use the term, a decal onto the floor. It's gonna be basically a multis cross type image, bronze with
Yeah.
fire and whatnot. We're gonna put that on the floor as kind of a conversation piece, so he's gonna put that in for us also.
Okay,
So, this is for 2927 is the total. This is coming out of the building maintenance budget.
okay,
In between the one that we've already discussed last week for doing some of the kitchen work and replacing the door, and this is gonna put us at about the $5,500 mark on that line item. So there's still about $2,000 left, of which we have one more project, which we'll get to here after this one's completed.
okay.
So there is that.
So move purchase order 1441 in the amount of $2,927 to Frank Bernard Concrete Finishing for building maintenance at the fire station.
Second that, so this is, okay.
That's his bid proposal that I got with it too.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor of purchase order 1441 say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Oh, that says 15.
That business that I have, that
All right.
goes into this folder, and wherever you put your folders, you want that? You keep it, which folders are going, Caroline, you want?
Caroline's out there.
She's not here.
It's a weird putting it out.
This just goes to her.
So before we get into the budget, we had one other thing we want to talk to you about. Now, where'd it go? Moses Car Road, there's a fire pond down there
Yes,
that I
there
used to
is.
catch frogs in
You did?
before there was any houses built there, yes.
So that pond was existing before Lavin bought it and put his
Correct.
house there?
And there was a road that you could go down. I
Okay.
used to ride my bicycle down there before they
Really?
finished the development on the other end, yes.
Yeah, that must be it right there. There's the road with the pond.
So our question is, there is, without getting into all the other why we need to, because it's not really, we don't have to worry about that part, but, is it accessible?
That's what we're gonna find out.
Okay. We need to know if it's accessible. There's a stanchion pipe down there
Yep,
that you're supposed to be able to pump out of.
yep.
And we'd like to know if that's operational too.
So would I.
Right, but you would.
And I understand all the background for this. I had a conversation with Caroline about it, and
Okay.
she showed me, you know, the issues with abatements and
Yeah.
whatnot. And she was asking me what I thought. I said, well, my first thought is, this may be there. I've been to the building before for calls to the residents.
Okay,
I knew the pond was there, but it's not like I went and inspected it or paid any attention to it.
right.
And I don't know exactly what an upgrade it has, and unless, you know, I can take a fire truck and put it right there so we can draft out of the pond. So it needs to have the proper road surface so that the thing's not gonna roll over or roll into the
Right.
pond. If he has a device there as a drafting device that will come out of it, well, that'll be good too. But basically what I'm gonna do next is, I'm gonna contact Mr. Lavin and make an appointment with him. We're gonna take a
Right.
piece of equipment up there, and we're gonna actually go through the same functions we would if we had to set up to
Perfect. And you'll let us
do
know
any
if
work,
it's.
and I'll let you know exactly what.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, because unless it's serviceable for us, then, you know, yeah, there's a pond there, but that, a lot of times that doesn't mean.
Right.
So, we'll go up and meet with him, make sure everything is in place, and make my recommendations to what we should do.
All right, because at one time it was like it was a road, a dirt road that we would go in, and it
Yeah.
wasn't.
Well, now, his house has got a rather large residence, he's got
It does,
like a
yeah.
barn and some more outbuildings out of there.
Right.
So, I mean, I know Mr. Lavin, my kids and his kids played sports together when they grew up and whatnot, so I know what kind of standard he has, so we'll go up and.
Well, is it accessible from his driveway, or you'll find out, I guess, so. 'Cause it used to be right accessible from, I think that's Moses Car at that bend there, or Heritage, whatever it is there,
Yeah.
at that bend is where you would go in, but
Well, now
it
I
doesn't
think.
look like it
I
anymore.
think right now, he's gonna be going right in his driveway, there's a big paved area on the parking lot or the garage side of his house, but there's also a paved area that goes out around a barn or another garage, whatever he calls it, to where the pond is. Like I said, I've never been down there myself, but we'll definitely check it out and
Hmm.
let you know. Matter of fact, we'll go back and, if nothing else, I'll be Kevin working on that, we'll make an appointment for these next Mondays.
I'd like to hear back then.
Yep, and we will put that right at the top of the list, so it's not anything that we have to drag
Okay.
out.
Alrighty. So we will take a look at your budget then.
Okay. And then, like I said before, the only two things that I was basically changing was the increase in the salary line item for the firefighters and adding another line for the radio equipment line, which was gonna encompass replacements and also to cover the MOU with the city of Dover.
Okay.
Other than that, we're gonna be in the same ballpark.
Okay, and you attached the MOU there, thank you. All right, let's go, so the only real changes, I mean, there are, well, no, let's see, there are proposed, let's see if there's any, the real changes then come, as you said, under, salaries for the
For the members.
for the members that show up, and, the radio line.
Correct.
Okay, so, how do I want to ask this question? Clearly, there is a need, you feel there is a need for increased funding in the salary line. So, I mean, I guess maybe I already know the answer to this question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway.
Go right ahead.
We've talked about in the past, different ways we can incentivize people that are otherwise busy with their jobs, with family life, or any other reason they may have to respond to calls, especially in the middle of the day, where we don't live in the same type of society that we did years ago, where people worked relatively close by, or maybe even in town.
Yeah.
And they could respond, and their employers would say,
Yeah.
fine, run and go,
Yeah.
you can, come back when you can.
Members of the highway department that used to do that.
Right, so, those days seem to be past. Do you feel that with this increase, that you will have sufficient resources to entice members to
No,
show up? Okay. I kinda didn't think you did, but I know you're trying, so I'm not trying to be
I'm
disparaging.
trying to do it in a logical progression, because basically, as I look down the road in the very near future, we're gonna need to have people either on a per diem basis that are gonna be available all, during the days, basically, is the issue.
Right.
And either that, or somebody's gonna have to be put on as a permanent position. We are that close, to the point where daytimes it's a major struggle to make sure we have enough people that can respond.
Right.
And half the time that's me. And I may be in Lee, or working on my, my contracting job, wherever I'm at. I come back to just about everything, but depending on where I am. Time, and we all know time, and response times is the key to all of this. We still survive on the fact that we have some members that do have days off during the week.
Right.
We still have some members that work for local ambulance services, so they're available. So right now, we're still able to fill some of the gaps.
Right.
That is such a revolving door and changes
Right.
weekly.
Well, you told us last week, or the
Difficult.
week before last, that we're losing 2 members, people that are buying houses in other states, and
Yep,
people getting professional positions, so.
yep, exactly right.
So we understand that's happening too, so.
And we added a new member last week. We had a member, a resident in the community come in. I think he's already certified that wanted an application. So we're
Okay.
still bringing some people
Right.
in at the lower end, but some of these, and then we have to invest and train them and get them ready to go. So that revolving door is always there. But my plan with this here is, to start with that amount of money now. And it's just gonna be almost an annual thing for a while, because if we do get to the point where we need to set up some sort of per diem program, or put somebody on for 30 hours a week so they're here during the daytime, that the money is already here, and we're not gonna be scrambling to find it or have all of a sudden one large increase.
How would, I don't wanna get ahead of ourselves, because I know you're not asking for it in here, we're just trying to think ahead.
Mm-hmm.
How would a 30-hour per week person actually work? Because how many folks do you have to have on a truck before it goes out the door?
By NFPA standard, the national standard, you should have 3 people on an engine.
Bare minimum.
Bare minimum, that is the bare minimum. You should have 3 people.
Mhm.
There's a lot of communities, and not only us, do we meet that on most of our calls? I'll give you 70%. We can roll out with 3. There's been times when I've been the only one that's gone. Initially. There may be some other people that
And
come.
people meet you at the scene or wherever.
Yep, or they'll go to the station and pick up another piece of equipment, but at least somebody that represents the community, the fire department is there and can initially make the decisions that need to be done. So, we're working towards improving that, but basically it's coming to the point where most every community around here has somebody on that covers daytime stuff. There's only 2 that don't anymore, us and Elliott. And I don't know if you saw the article in the paper the other day, Elliott's very close to going and putting out some sort of people there every day. Because they have an issue where they have people that work for the highway department, as we did. They used to respond to the highway department, the Elliott's get a different contract, and they're gonna eliminate their ability to do that. So they would be the ones that would be the daytime responder
Right.
along with the chief, so they would meet the 3-person requirement. So, I mean, everybody's there, and that's why mutual aid in this area is just so important. Because you have to have it, because there's just no other way you can survive. Nobody can afford the bill that the fire service requires to be able to meet everything that they mandate you do. And we do the best we can. Basically, it's just a risk assessment thing. What is the amount, the level of risk that the community is willing to accept? I've talked to an awful lot of people, they think that wherever they had moved from, when they come to our community, they think there's a full-time fire department. So let's have a little conversation. And it's just them being able to, be educated on what they expect and what we actually can provide.
All right.
Does the increase represent an increase in salary or an increase in number of members, or both?
Basically, it's just salary. It doesn't have anything to do with the amount of members we have. What happens with that salary line, Miles, is when we have calls, the members that come to the station and respond to that call. We have a sign-up login sheet, and it's your name and you sign in, and from the start of the call to the end of the call. And on an hourly basis, you earn points, 1 point per hour, depending on your rank and whatnot. And that's how that money is doled out, more or less. Is, you know, the guys that are very, very active, and we use it as an incentive. If you come, you're going to get paid. If you're not, obviously you're not going to get paid.
Yep.
So, and I've had the struggles before, and I keep saying, you know, our minimum wage in this state is what, $7.25, $7.50 or something? We wouldn't even meet that.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
And it's a constant battle for us to have our people, because every other fire department around here, if they find somebody that's interested, everybody's after them. And they're gonna grab them because most of them are like on a $14 an hour minimum, and we don't even come close to that. So other than that, people that are just dedicated, whether they're, you know, residents or whatever, some of the influence that I have on some things, help to get them where they wanna go, has always been a card I've been able to play.
Yep.
We're still using it, but it's not always gonna be there. So I'm kind of preparing for down the road. And I'm actually, I've been talking to some of the local chiefs in the area, and per diem is the big thing that a lot of these departments initially go to when they wanna put some people on. And I'm getting some information on how they administer some of those in local communities, and
Right.
trying to take some of that information and
It'd be good to know, do they have a
Together
bare
for us.
minimum of, do they have 3 people on per diem that day? 2, or is it just one?
most of these communities have a staff position, would be a chief's, let's call it a chief's position. A lot of these are getting anywhere from 20 to 30 hours a week. And that's, you know, a regular salaried fire chief, if you
Right.
want to use that. He's one of those personnel. And then you have 2 more people during the day. Are they on duty? They don't have to be on duty. What a lot of them locally are doing is they have to be able to get to the fire station within 8 minutes.
Okay.
There's no calls that day, they're on the per diem ranks, you're in $50 a day just for being available,
Right,
whether you go or not.
right.
So that's a baseline
Mhm.
on how some of these are constructed.
Mhm.
How it works for us, we could just
Right.
do what works best for our model.
Right, but you're guaranteed coverage.
You're
Those
guaranteed
people that are on
coverage.
per diem need to show up within that allotted time. Okay.
And that's the thing, is now you can start to meet standard on what you should have for your response times.
All right.
Because, you know, during the day, every time when I'm wearing, I get a call, it's the first thing that comes, all right? What day is it? Who's probably around? How long is it gonna take us to get on the road?
All right. Well, how, this line, the increase that you're asking for, to bring it up to
51.
51,000. How close are we now to the state minimum wage?
If we can get to this point, we'll probably be over.
We'll be slightly over
Yeah.
the state minimum wage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because basically we do, the guys get their pay quarterly.
Right,
So the last one of the year will be, it ends in November and they get in early December.
all right.
So it works that they get points per hour per
Per call.
call.
So on a 3-month basis, we may do 50 calls.
50 calls.
Depending how many of those you were there, how long the duration was, how many points you earned. All those points from everybody go in a big bucket. And basically, at 41, it's 10 grand per quarter.
Gets divided up.
Gets divided up. Exactly, right. That's how it is. Firefighters are, you know, at 1 point, and then officers get a little bit more as they go up.
Go ahead, Denise.
It's based on your experience.
Mark, do you pay them by the hour for their training as well?
Some
Like
tra-
on Monday night?
Yep, some trainings they do get paid for. Some trainings and some meeting nights, they also earn points for that also.
Right,
Okay.
Yeah. Again, so we can get some people to come in and make sure they get their required hours for training.
right,
So we have to do some of that also.
right.
But again, to answer your question, Mike, if this budget goes and we have that money, I think we will definitely go over the minimum. We'll probably be pushing $8 an hour by then, I would think.
Okay.
Because when Kevin does payrolls and we do it on a quarterly basis, he always gives me the number on about where we were on what each point was worth. One point would be $7.50. And if you came in for a call and you were there for 3 or 4 hours, boom, 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 added up to $30. You know, things like that.
What are the qualifications, Mark, to serve on the Rollinsford Fire Department?
Qualifications.
What
to be a member.
do we require of folks to
You
serve?
have to be a level 1 certified firefighter.
And what does it take to become a level 1 certified firefighter?
You have to go to school, and it's roughly 260 hours of training that you do. And it's all the bare minimum, basic informational stuff that you're gonna need to know to become a firefighter, from dragging hose to using your air pack to knowing what your protective gear is, to traffic accidents, to extrication, you name it, all that stuff is there. And most, it's about a 4-month class, and it not only includes classroom, it's a very large involvement with practical skills.
And how many calls this past year would you say, approximately? I know the year's not over yet, and you
Right
do a
now,
tally at the end of the year for us,
Yeah,
but
right now, we're at 147 calls.
how many structure fires?
Ones that we've actually building fires so far this year, we've had 4.
Major accidents on Route 4? Do you think? How many?
Half a dozen. Not all on Route 4, seems like they
Well,
have a lot of them.
That is the busiest road in our
It is.
town.
It
It's also the
definitely is for
highest
volume.
speed limit.
Yeah,
I drive to Concord every day to go to work. You know, at the Epsom McDonald's at the traffic circle, they're paying starting people $10 an hour to work at McDonald's. So, not to say there's anything wrong with working at McDonald's, but I would say that the men and women of the Rollinsford Fire Department that are running into burning buildings, standing out on Route 4, hoping not to get run over themselves, probably deserve at least $8 an hour, so.
I would certainly agree with that.
I can't disagree with that.
Okay, you want to talk about radios? Or unless, Denise, you want to talk about salaries some more? I don't mean to cut it off if you want to ask questions. Okay.
I'm good for it.
Radio, let's talk about radios. So, we're talking about New Line, which makes sense to me because we've got that contract. We need to pay off the
3-year agreement with the city of Dover to pay off the repeater.
and so, Denise, were you here when we did this?
No.
Okay, so, and I know Miles wasn't, so, quickly, on Garrison, no,
Garrison?
yeah, Garrison Hill, the tower, we thought we were gonna be able to retain certain services there, the city of Dover led us to believe that we were gonna stay,
Well, it all stemmed from
let
there
me
up
get to
to
it, what's the word I'm looking for? Analog, stay analog instead of going digital. Dover's gonna go digital eventually, but not all the way, we're gonna retain certain things, and all of a sudden Mark gets this, oh, by the way, we're going all digital. Rollinsford, you're kind of on your own, or you're gonna give us a lot of money. So, I'm just doing a quick recap for you, so you guys know. And you've got MOU in this package, so you understand, you can read through it. Mark worked with the chief, or maybe the former chief at this point, I don't know if he.
It was with Chief Colarusso.
Okay, so, and worked out a deal where they would keep analog equipment for Rollinsford. I think it does benefit Dover really too. but,
It does.
On Garrison Hill, which actually increases his radio
Our
accessibility
capabilities are much better
incredibly, which is good for us,
in that location.
but it was gonna be a substantial amount of money. Chief Rutherford was able to work out a deal with Chief Colarusso where it was in a payment plan, which really was advantageous for Rollinsford.
The
It's
original
also,
number they wanted was $40,000.
yeah, so,
And we actually got 18, and the actual working price is done at 13.
right, so we went from 40 to 18, now to, he's worked out to 13 grand. So we need to pay the city of Dover 3 installments of $4,500, which
Okay.
I think is kudos to the fire chief for making this happen. So that makes all the sense in the world to me, so that's a portion of it. So how many radios, okay, I'm getting to them,
Mm-hmm.
I'm leading up to a question, I promise. How many radios does that $11,000 represent?
Great.
3. Okay, yeah, no, they're not cheap, so,
No.
nothing in the fire service.
So-
$4,000 for the base model. If you want things up above it, they go from up to $5,000 and $6,000 for one handheld radio.
So we'll use a mix of analog and digital until, because they're.
Basically, we have no digital.
Okay.
We don't. Just a synopsis, a little bit more of that, is they went all digital. They were gonna have to leave the analog component because that was up on the hill, and that was used to set off their station tones in the city of Dover. And they kept that for a while, but now they have switched over so that everything is digital. But I did find out a tidbit the other day that they are still using, and we can reverse some of that payment we have to give, they're still using our analog system to set off their pagers that the individual firefighters call. And there's no way that they can upgrade to digital. so that it's always gonna have to be in place. But I found out this out kind of going around left end through dispatch, because I don't think they wanted to get that information out as freely as
Right.
I dug to find it. So it's not like they're totally gotten rid of that, it's always gonna have to be in their component,
So
so.
potentially you may be able to
Yeah, well, I'll get some mileage.
renegotiate, no, maybe not renegotiate this contract, but get other,
Get something else,
Something else
some
from the
other
city
mileage
on
from
that.
that. Oh, yeah.
we appreciate that too. So 3 radios this year. And we haven't done the CIP yet, so if this is part of the, Denise, if this is part of the CIP for Saturday, just cut me off now.
There's radios on the CIP,
Okay,
yes.
so that,
Yeah.
okay, then I'm not gonna ask the next question, so,
Did you get my response to your email, Denise?
I did, thank you.
okay.
Yeah, because we had that discussion about
Okay,
kind of
I'll save it then.
relabeling.
I'll save it, but just so Miles knows, I know Denise knows this because she's intimately involved with the fire service in this town, and has been for a number of years. How did we get the bulk of our radios?
They were given to us from the state
When?
15, 18 years ago.
After 9/11,
The
wasn't it?
state got a grant,
Yeah.
upgraded everything in the state, and the old
So-
ones that they
Yeah.
didn't need were disseminated to fire departments and PDs and ambulances and whatever, and that's where we got ours. And the reason why this program is bumped up to the forefront is the radios that we have now are unrepairable when they fail. They
So,
won't, radio service companies won't touch them anymore.
so Mark and Mike and Harry have been keeping these machines going for a good number of years, so they've reached their shelf life. We
The
need to-
service
we need
life
to
is
start-
coming to an end.
start replacing these things, so. And these are the, are these the radios that they carry at accident scenes and going into fires and all these things, so.
Yep.
We kinda want them to work, so.
You have to have them, our communications is the number one
Right.
priority when it comes to what we do. And there's a lot, again, local fire departments have done the same thing, done a lot of their upgrades. When Dover did their big upgrade, they got all new portable radios.
Right.
And, you know, Somersworth has started the same way, so we're gonna be getting the same brand, the same style that they have, so we're all compatible. That's pretty much also, I hate to use the word mandated, but it is through the Seacoast Chiefs, because they kinda are an organization that all the local fire departments belong to, and they kinda oversee some of this stuff. And they'll mandate things, but it ain't like they help you with your funding and all, but they tell you this is the level of which they want you to be. And basically, it's a spin-off from what NFPA wants to see done. So we're just a trickle-down thing that's getting to us. But if this comes into place and we can do this, we'll be ahead of the curve.
But in the, I mean, the advantage though of getting compatible radios is that you can talk to one another when you're on a mutual aid call. And-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming 3's not really,
No.
right, I mean,
No,
That's a
that-
Saturday question.
That's off of the line, that's off of the line item from
Yeah.
in here, if that goes through, we do get that. But like we were talking, Mike had made reference to the CIP.
mhm.
You know, there's $40,000, I think, that was in the CIP end of it, that was earmarked for another piece of equipment. And after all this came to fruition, I think it would be more prudent for us to change that, just reroute that money towards new upgrades of the radio equipment.
And the CIP is a fluid document, so we can reprioritize, and it's based off of, Denise's committee will make a recommendation to us, and that's gonna happen Saturday.
Yep.
Based on the input from the department heads, so if the fire chief says we need radios more than we need, I don't know, a new whatever,
What was the
We
air
take
fuel
that- we
station?
take that.
Split that.
and we take those, and we have in the past too, and other boards have, take those recommendations seriously, because these are the people.
Yeah.
Basically, this all happens and everything falls into place. If this comes into place in the CIP, we can end up with getting about 15 new radios.
And how many do we need total? I know it's a Saturday question, but
25.
you're here, so we
25.
need 25, so.
And that's
we'll be
for all
at
the
18 if everything
positions.
went through.
Yeah, and what my goal is to at least get the 2 engines equipped with total
Right.
radios. So when guys come in, because ideally we like to see 4 or 5 guys on each truck, and normally we'll get that, but it just takes a while to get there. I
So,
want all new equipment on those pieces.
yeah, are there grant opportunities
And
for
we-
offsetting?
Yeah, we've been working on that for the
Okay.
last couple, 3 years.
Right.
And to the point where at first we hardly even got through the door. But as of last year, we've done some, sought out some grant writing help.
Good.
And we actually made it through the door, into the room and on the table
Nice.
this
Okay.
last year. So we're
Okay.
hoping that I mean, even if we get this and we start coming through, there's still other upgrades if we do
Right.
land a grant, because we have to upgrade the mobile station
Right,
at our dispatch monitor in, within the station.
right,
So there's other things, other than portables that we could use grant money for.
okay,
So we're still working on trying to get that. And if we didn't, we can find other means to use it. If I could use it to pay off the, the other 3 payments of the equipment we're looking to have to purchase, whatever. If we land one, we can find ways to utilize it.
so the only other place that I see any, let's see, real difference in here, I don't know, make sure I'm not missing anything. Supplies, I mean, it's $200, so it's not, clearly you feel that you need additional resources there, and that's a small enough thing, so. But there's no substantial increases,
Nothing,
they're all,
nothing. Because actually, even tonight, when I came in and saw Caroline, she gave me my updated spending as to today.
okay,
I have a copy of that right now. We had a discussion the other day, because, and I know I'm not the only department that does it, because I heard Chief Ducharme talking about it also. There's always some things you kind of wait more towards the end of the year in
Yeah.
case something comes up. It did a few years ago, we needed extra money for paving, and
Yeah.
and you got some from each of the departments.
we appreciate
So
it,
as of this morning, I spent 58% of the operating budget this year.
right,
Okay, so, and typically the end of the year is when we finish out all the vehicle maintenance stuff, we gotta do emergency testing of the fire trucks. We buy the rest of the personnel, the equipment, the clothing, personal protective clothing and whatnot. So Caroline's discussion was, I always wait till the end, I don't want any surprises for one. And two, a lot of times it's a lot easier for me to manage and see where I'm at. So we're at 58, 60% of the budget right now, and with a quarter of the year left, so. And typically, since I've been in this chair now for going on 7 years, there's always been a little bit left, because there's some areas that I just can't spend it all,
all right,
because I can't.
all right, so, are there any other questions for the fire chief? Denise, you got any questions? Or comments?
Thank you.
Okay, all right, so we're gonna, work on this on Saturday, Mark, so if there's anything that does pop up, I can't imagine, other than radios and salary, because everything else is the same. We'll let you know, okay? But we appreciate your time.
Yeah.
All right.
No problem.
Yeah, is the clerk here?
She is, she wanted to go to the end, I told her I would
Oh.
grab her when
We're
I'm
supposed to
done.
ask, we're supposed to ask you one other thing, Mark, I'm sorry. You don't actually get to leave, sorry.
No, it's
The MOU for Oak Street, so the memorandum of understanding or agreement with the city of Dover as to who paves, who plows, certain things, potholes. There's police, and is there fire? If there's an incident on Oak Street, an accident or something, that you all, do you just respond to anything on Oak Street, even if it's on the
Basically,
other side? or-
the agreement that I've always had over there, and is through the dispatch, is, it's the middle road.
Okay, well, that's the
Dividing
the
line
town
that
and
we
city
always
line, so,
operated on.
okay,
You know, if you're headed up Oak Street, headed towards Mr. Mike's, everything to the right,
You're doing
that's
it.
Dover stuff. Everything to the left is our stuff.
Okay,
If
then,
there's a traffic accident someplace, a lot of times we'll both be there.
yeah,
The Portland Street side of it, that whole intersection is Dover's.
okay,
Okay, the actual line is a little bit down
It
more
does slide
towards where
over,
the
yeah.
bank is.
yep.
On the lower end, at Broadway, that's actually ours.
Mhm.
So the way the line runs, it's not, it's nice and straight as you want it to be.
We've
But actually,
determined it.
yeah, the building on the other side of, on the Oak and Broadway side at 72 Oak Street is actually our building. That's in this town. It's an apartment building. There's like
Oh,
a
yeah.
six-unit
At the end there, oh, yes, I know, yeah,
That's
Yeah.
ours too.
yes.
But
We
it's-
had a fire,
I've had
not too
fires,
long ago, yeah.
A couple of fires in that building since
Yeah.
I've been around, so, but again, we all end up there anyway, so.
okay.
A
So
lot
is
of times
that,
if
do you
it's on
want
that-
something in writing as part of this MOU or MAU or whatever it is? MOA?
What does PD do?
Well, at the moment, they have a handshake agreement with the city of
I heard him
Dover,
saying that.
which I think we'll talk about some more, but we wanna get away from those things. So, if you want it in writing, the city of Dover has staff attorneys that we don't have, as I'm sure you're aware of.
Oh, yes.
And they're very kindly and graciously agreed to handle the drafting of any changes that need to be done all on them, so we don't incur all the legal costs.
Right, no, I
If
think.
you want as part of it, we can
I think it makes
put it in,
all the
so.
sense in the world to have those things done, so it's documented in writing, rather than, you know, like you said, the handshake agreement, sometimes those just don't hold up when you really need them to.
They don't.
Chief Rose, I know him rather well, I'm sure he would be more than welcome to whatever we wanna do.
Okay. Do you wanna reach out to him and see if he wants it part of the,
I can do
as
that.
well? And then maybe send something to Caroline and we can have Mr. Blankenship, at the City of Dover Incorporated?
Yeah.
Awesome,
I
okay.
think that would be the way to go. And just one other update for you, if anybody's going by the firehouse tomorrow, George has contacted me, he's gonna take up the part of the ramp in front of the
Oh,
firehouse.
okay, yeah,
Where the new bay is and the new fire trucks is
Yeah.
coming out, he's gonna regrade it, and hopefully by Wednesday, we'll have a whole new ramp there.
okay.
So that's gonna be happening, if you go by and you wonder what it was, that's just us doing what we're doing.
He had mentioned a few weeks ago that he was,
Weather dependent,
Well, yeah.
in, you know, his schedule,
It
he
was
called me,
coming.
called me this afternoon and says, there's not supposed to be any rain for the rest of the week, it's his goal to get that taken care of in the
All right.
next 2 days. Yeah, that's what I said, all right, it'll be easy for now, he's got a striping machine, so he can stripe it for us, so everything's gonna be.
we're gonna talk about his other piece of equipment he got for free too.
And I heard that today, yeah, his PC picked up, why not, you know, if he can do that, put it in service, why not?
That's what I said,
Yeah.
but we're accepted this evening. So anyways, that's it.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
very good.
Thank you. So, I'm sorry, she wants to go,
She would prefer to wait until after we're done with welfare.
oh, all right, yeah, whatever. Yeah, just didn't want to make her wait. So, we have a welfare case. So, Miles, I'd like, would you like to make the motion to go into non-public session for welfare petitions?
I move that we go into non-public session for welfare petition.
Okay, we have to do a roll call on that. Is it seconded? I'll second it. We'll do a roll call. Miles?
Yes.
Denise?
Yes.
Mike? Yes. Okay, we're in non-public session to deal with welfare petitions. Everyone could turn off your cameras, please.
Thank you.
We would appreciate it.
These, I have letters here for the board to sign and get that filed.
But if you need to hop off, just let us know, and we'll sign off. But if you're still okay, I think we're plugging along. Are we all back in, Salme? We came back at 7:53.
Kate's on her way.
Oh,
Make
okay.
sure you put the camera on.
Yep, cameras are on. All
Yes, it's back on,
right,
thank you.
so the town clerk is coming in momentarily, and we will,
Hello.
How are you?
hear her,
Oh, Denise is on.
Denise is not going, she's under the weather today,
Okay.
so she's joining us via phone, so, all right, I have it here somewhere, did you already submit?
I did, I just needed to start with this, it just says that I posted the times and location of the up and coming election.
Oh, this is the warrant for, the state election, you got it, okay. All right, so today is the 15th of October. It's 15th day of October in the year of our Lord 2018, all right. And we will sign this. And it says, and so you know, to the inhabitants in town, the inhabitants of the town of Rollinsford in the county of Stratford, New Hampshire, you are hereby notified to meet the American Legion on Tuesday, the 6th day of November 2018. The polls will be open between the hours of 7 and 7 to act upon the following subjects: to bring in your votes for governor, United States representative, executive counselor, state senators, state representatives, and county officers, and to bring in your votes for constitutional amendment questions. And then we just gotta sign it saying that yes, this is, because the select board issues the warrant to call out the voters. So,
Okay.
just so you know what we're, like, what am I listening to? And that's what you're listening to. Rollinsford. You get away with not having to sign it this year, 'cause you were out, but next year. Oh, we've got twice to sign. And then it says, we hereby certify that we gave notice to the inhabitants within named to meet at a time and place for the purpose within mentioned by posting an attested copy of the above warrant at the place of meeting in the office of the town or city clerk or city hall on the 15th day of October 2018. We sign it again. Because the first time we signed it wasn't enough on the same piece of paper. All right, Miles, you can sign there and we'll,
I have ordered signs to put out front here too that'll say, voting is being held at the American Legion,
yep,
so that if people do pull up,
The bottom block, so.
if people do pull up, they'll see that.
good, perfect. All righty, so we have, you already submitted
I did,
your budget and folks,
I got a little revision.
there were, you have a new invoice on?
No,
Oh.
no, just one
Okay,
area.
let me just find where you sent it. I know it's here, but I just looked at it when I was looking for the fire chiefs. It's probably at the bottom.
I can make a copy of mine.
Oh, I know, right here, I'm sorry. It wasn't, yeah, well, it's on. All right, you have your one? All right, so, you wanna go with your revision first and then?
Oh,
folks
no, we can start at the top, work our way down, or however you've been doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, the revision, it's a wish list, but I'll talk
All
about
right,
it.
so, it was tax collector, I wrote down all the, we've been having workshops on the budget,
Mhm.
and
Your questions.
there was questions, I wrote it down, so if you can. I wrote it directly on the piece of paper on the budget, so I might have. I know, I was trying to keep everyone's questions together, so.
Yes, we've gotten a new printout since we.
We have, yeah, so, all right, so if folks remember what their questions were, I don't, you feel free to ask them, because we can go through line by line if we want. The first was, well, let's just go through the lines, unless Denise, do you remember a question you wanted to ask?
The only thing I wanted to do is to have a little more information about the pros and the cons of the new software that she wants to get, and is it mandatory that we go forward with that?
Oh, it was the software, right? That was the,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you, jog my memory.
So we
Okay,
can,
the
we
programming.
can start with that, Denise, and it's actually larger
Hold
than,
on, can she come a little closer?
I will
can't
move the
really hear
phone
her.
closer to her, yes.
hi Denise,
That's better, thank you.
you're welcome. It's actually a little higher than I first anticipated. Many of the clerks throughout the state of New Hampshire have gone with Avatar because they have just come out with a new program that it supersedes the one that I had projected going into. We currently have what's called Interware, and we have our dog program with them. And all of these programs are kind of à la carte, like once you get in, then you can build, but it costs more money as you build to add the autos, you know, the dogs, the boats, if we want to add it all to a program. So I originally had given the company that we're currently working with an offer to give me a price, which was roughly around $3,500. If we were to switch over to Avatar, which as you know we use for tax collection and assessing, their program is $10,000. But what it allows us to do, well, there's a multitude of things it allows us to do, but most importantly, we will end up with a screen that we could collect a dog, a car, a boat, and I can even do vital statistics all on one system. Currently, Andrea and I run about 7 systems. She's got one for property tax, she's got one for residence tax. I have one for dogs, we have one for boats, autos, and death, birth, and marriages. And they're currently all separate, involving more deposits, separations. So the pro to this program is to be able to cash people out with possibly one check. We're currently doing 2 checks for motor vehicle, but this program would allow us to collect 1. I mean, I have it all in print. It's probably gonna be Greek to you guys as far as what it allows us to do, but it's more user-friendly and it gives the towns more control over the software. We're currently connected to the DMV software, and we don't have any control over any changes. This would enable me to be able to print my own notices in which I could add additional information, whether somebody was on vacation or a day that we may be closed. It's just, it gives us more freedom to work throughout the system. But more importantly, I mean, for a customer, it's much easier. This is a stepping stone. We would be able to start with this program, and then they could set us up with debit and credit. And it would also allow online registration, which people could go online and put their information in, pay the additional fee, and we process it. So it's an enormous step, and I realize that it's a lot of money for the town, but at some point, the state will force us off their program. Little by little, they are, you know how they had us a couple years ago put our own VPN in, and then now they've stopped supplying us with the equipment. So little by little, they're pushing communities towards this, and the difference is like day and night between the program I'm on and this one. And I realize it's a huge jump. It's, again, my wish list. I think for residents and myself, it would be a huge bonus.
Are there fees associated with the programs we're using now?
Yes.
Besides the dog one? I mean, I know that one, but.
Yes. The
Okay.
dog one, so that would obviously go away because we would be starting new, and they could
Right.
transfer our dogs over to this program.
Okay,
The state is considered a browser town, so we don't pay for the system. We do
Okay.
pay for the notices that they generate,
okay,
but I could generate my own.
okay. How do we pay for those services now? Where is that in the budget?
It must be under my, I don't know. where Karen
Vital
has
record
it.
and payments to the states, that must,
No, that's one. And that's another area that
excuse me.
I am doing deaths, births, and marriages probably 4 times greater than I've done in the past. I did 7 birth certificates last week. I didn't do 7 in a year last year. Now that the new driver's license that's out, everybody has to have an original birth certificate, so there's been an uptick in that. And then in marriages, we've had a big uptick because for those people that were gonna be thrown out of the country, there were a lot of marriages. And then we also are doing a lot for insurance purposes. So we have had a big uptick in that. But this would just allow me, I mean, I know it's frustrating when people come in, they have to write 2 checks for motor vehicle. Then they have to write one for their residence tax. And then if they do their dog, they gotta write a check. And if they do a boat, everything is separated. But as you can see with this program, it's, I don't know if I showed you, but it's a mass screen.
Yeah, I think we have that here.
So
So
that you can-
is it that they have to write separate checks based on the programs you're using, or because they're separate accounts to the state and the town?
Well, the state and the town are definitely separate accounts.
Right,
But the others are just set up separate accounts, and that's how the auditor has us doing those. But this
Okay.
would print a report at the end of the day, allocating where all the monies go, we can just do the deposit and split it accordingly.
so currently, because we don't have a program that will create the report, we have to have a separate check for
Yeah?
each thing for
Mhm.
the auditor?
And it makes more work, obviously, for cashing out and more trips to the bank, and more time for the auditor. So, I mean, this is the direction that most towns and cities are going in, because it's what people want, the convenience. As far as credit cards, I don't know how much use we'll get out of that, because it is 3%. So if you're doing a registration for a car, like our average car is $300, it's another $9. So, and I can't see a lot of people using that, but for the people who do want it, or when you do it online, it charges you a fee too.
So it's 10,000, and then is there an annual maintenance? agreement?
You know, he
or-
just faxed this over to me today, and they're coming in November to do a demonstration.
Okay.
So I would have to find out what that is.
Can you, maybe make a, can you scan that
Yep,
for us?
yep.
And email it over to us so we can take a look at it?
Yep.
We have
And
it
I
all-
am
and she had
working
it back then, too. We had it all
With
done.
them, to try to get the price down, because we do have their
Right,
other software.
yep.
This is just the first initial cost that came over.
All right, so we can take a look at it and see if there's other
Yeah,
information
so
in there, so.
anyways, I realize it's high, like I said, it's my wish list, but I think it's up to the board whether they feel the town's ready for this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big change.
So you wouldn't need the 3548? But you-
No, it's looking more like 10.
But I mean, it's,
It's not an additional. it's
so
No.
if 10 gets turned down,
Allocated. Mhm.
then you do need 3548?
No,
Oh,
Nope.
okay,
the 10 would cover my existing dog program. They're gonna move that over and set us up with a new program.
So in the packet that you're gonna email over to us, does that have, actually, not just scan, you already printed it, it was an email, you could just forward it, sorry,
No,
for what I was
will.
thinking, but,
And a
it
lot
has
of
like
it,
maintenance fee agreement and all that information's in there, like
not
ongoing.
all of it, I just scanned it quickly, but, and it's gonna seem kind of Greek to you, and so I can answer any questions, but the state program, as you know, any state program is really behind the times. And it would just be helpful, I think, to the residents and to the town.
Are there any other questions on this piece? Now I remember, actually, I did have a question about programming of ballots, but I don't wanna move off if people still have more questions.
I think.
I'd like to read through the information on that
Okay,
before
are you okay with that, Denise?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
So, program and printing of ballots. The amount that you've requested, the 3,500, is that based on an actual quote from the people that we have?
LHS.
LHS. Is that,
What I did is I did two things. I got a price from them, and then I worked closely with the town of Newfields, because they're the same size and they're SB2.
okay,
Some
that's my next
towns,
question, so.
some towns, as of Northampton, had 8 ballots.
Right, 8 pages to their ballot.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So
So
that's why I wanna make sure we're,
I went with
realistic.
Newfields, and with the school, which they have one as well, we're looking at 3 ballots. And that's just, we can only surmise, because if
3
more
pages
gets-
for, so between school and town,
Yeah, 2 for town and 1
one per school.
yeah. And, I mean, it's gonna cost us more. It's gonna be more in programming, it's gonna be more in ballots, and I anticipate 6 to 8 minutes for everybody in a booth.
And that's for the state election, that's not.
No, that's a town,
Oh, that's for town?
SB2.
Okay, yeah, right.
We only have a town election next year.
I was gonna say, because the state pays for the
Yeah,
state.
no, we had 3 this year, but, so, yeah, it's gonna be quite an increase.
Okay,
And I'm also,
I'm sorry, are they, double-sided?
they are. Yeah,
So you're saying 3 double-sided pages per,
yeah, election, well, per town election.
Of course, it depends on what there are for warrant.
Right,
articles,
and that
whether based
depends,
on-
I mean, if we have 20 warrant articles or 30, I mean, the more that we have, the more pages.
Yep.
And the more time, which is why I requested another
well,
voting booth, because,
in, this last town meeting, we had, 19, questions on the ballot,
yeah.
on the warrant, rather.
And the other thing that concerns me is when we get into that many pages, our ballot machine's been wonderful, thank God, but when we get into more pages, we're gonna have to think about getting a backup unit or a second one, because of the time in which people are voting and entering their ballots. It's gonna be harder on the machine, obviously 8 times harder, if we had 8, not 8 times, but at least 3 times harder. So those are things that are gonna be up and coming, we may have to project for that as well.
Okay, so, but you do believe, though, that the 3,500 is gonna be sufficient?
I feel that's gonna be okay,
Okay.
unless things, unless we have more than anticipated.
Okay. Any other questions? I think that was my biggest one, and I don't know why, I've lost my, I don't know,
Cheat
I wrote it down here somewhere, but I don't know where it went. Miles,
Okay.
or Denise?
No, not that.
All right, sorry.
Okay, so I will send over my,
That would be very
Avatar
helpful to take a look at.
request, and, anybody's welcome to come when they do the tutorial.
You'll let us know when it's happening, so we can.
Yeah, it's gonna be
we
on
have time to-
Thursday, before we open.
Next week?
Oh, no, November,
Oh, no.
after the election.
Oh, after the election.
Yeah.
That's good.
But, I mean, if you're interested in software, it's a pretty cool program, and I can show you what we're currently using. I mean, an example, today I did 2 buses for C&J, it took me an hour and a half
Right,
because of the state system.
right.
Hour and a half for 2. I mean, it was $11,000, it was worth it, but
But that ties you up for a while.
it does. And, most of my fleets I have to close and come in before or after to do them because, I can't tie up the machine. Yeah, so,
All right, so we can,
I hope you feel better, Denise.
Thank you.
so we've got the interware information, and we'll look for the avatar stuff
Yes.
too, and we'll see
Yeah,
what makes sense.
I'm in a group text with small towns clerks, and people rave about the Avatar one over the interware. I mean,
Yeah.
they're all fighting for the best program, but
So there are other vendors?
there are. There seems to be about 3 in the whole state of New Hampshire that are really, have it under control.
Is it, is it worth putting on RFP to all of them and see if we can get,
Possibly.
I know that you said you're working on a better number than 10,000.
I am. I know the owner. I worked with Gary years ago when I was a tax collector, and I was gonna call him. They are from Rollinsford,
Oh,
the original owners from Avatar. And they've been good to us in the past, and I think if we're gonna have all 3 systems, and they know we're a small town, they should, hopefully.
Well, we'll look forward to
I'm
hearing
gonna work on it.
it. All right,
Okay?
well, thank you,
You're welcome.
and we are,
Have a good evening.
thank you, you too. We're gonna jump back up to highway. Excuse me. I saw George today while I was at town hall, I was here. And he had some updates for the things that we have on the agenda. The transfer station phone, they did their experiment, and apparently it works fine. Using the handheld at the highway, at the transfer station. So he was suggesting that we don't need the phone at the transfer station any longer.
excellent.
So if we're good with that, we can cut that. Is there any objection to doing that?
No.
No, if it works, that's great.
Okay, so we can talk to Caroline about what next steps need to happen there.
Okay.
Oak Street paving costs, it was supposed to be approximately $12,000 and change. It ended up being $13,000. We had money in the paving line to cover it, thank goodness. But that's taken care of, so just want to make that announcement. So folks know, I don't have the exact dollar amount in front of me, I apologize, but it was 13 and change, closer to 13, not closer to 14, I don't believe, so. And the only other thing that George had for us for this, 2 other things. The Sligo culvert, he's mentioned this in the past, but I don't know if either of you were here when he did. He would like to talk to Hoyle Tanner, or have us actually talk to Hoyle Tanner, about moving the barriers, the Jersey barriers that are there now, back. He believes we can get an extra 4 feet on that road and reopen it even more. This is at the culvert that the furthest away from, closer to Bear roadside, so they can get a larger truck through there. Hoyle Tanner had mentioned that they didn't think it was a problem, but he wants us to ask them. So there will be obviously a cost associated with that. So are folks comfortable with us reaching out to Hoyle Tanner to check on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what I think I'd like a motion for that, because the other one was was taking away a service to save money, so this one is to spend money, so I'd like to actually have a formal vote on this one if we could then.
So I'll move that we get in touch with Hoyle Tanner to, I assume, assess the cost of moving the barriers on Sligo
And the feasibility.
and the feasibility.
All right, I'll second.
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so I'll, excuse me. I will, send an email to, Aaron over at Hoyle Tanner and see what he has, what his assessment is. Writing a note, so I wonder what's going on. Okay, and the other thing that George wanted us to let us know, I know he sent an email to the board, but I want everyone to know, the roller from Rochester, the paving machine, the roller, the city of Rochester, George contacted the city of Rochester to see if he could borrow one, for, I think, for the fire station work, you know, and a couple of other things he wanted to do in town. They said, no, you can't borrow one, but you can have one that we're getting rid of, for free. You just need to replace the battery that's in it. And so George
Now
and,
you have to pay for scrap.
so Rochester said, no, you can just have it, we don't care. It was on their list of things they were replacing this year anyways. So they said, no, we don't even care about the scrap price, you can just have it. So George and Ed took a look at it. I mean, there's some cosmetic stuff, obviously, there's some rust and stuff on it that they feel that they can take care of. The battery apparently that was in it was still under warranty, so they took it back to wherever they took it to, I don't know. And we got a free battery too, so they put it in the machine, it works. So we have a free roller, so it doesn't have to borrow it, it's not the prettiest looking thing, but it works, and so we don't have to worry about that anymore. We don't have to worry about renting one anyways, or borrowing one for the small projects that the road crew can handle, taken care of, so
Excellent.
Win-win.
good for us, we got a free piece of machinery. The only requirement was that the city of Rochester asked that we take their name off of it, and that's already been taken care of apparently. George and Ed scraped it off, so that wasn't much of a job there, I guess, so it was a good thing we got a piece of free machinery today, so it's here in town, I guess, so. All right, so where are we now? Item 4, we're finally moving into town administration budgets. We have the revised budget. I'd like to talk about that on Saturday, when we're all together. Do you think Denise you'll be able to make it on Saturday?
I'm pretty certain I will be there on Saturday.
Okay, I mean, if not, it is what it is, I get it, but,
No,
I
think I will be.
okay, so I'd like to take that, well, actually it says review and approve, so I've actually already looked at it. We have it printed out here, I think.
Yeah, we've got a copy.
Yep, I know, it's probably in the bottom. I should just start at the bottom and work my way back. Yep. Oh. Close to the bottom. Yep, close to the bottom, I knew it. So I guess we'll, hold on, give me a second, Denise, sorry. So we've had it you sent it to us, Sarah, I don't know, what, last week was it maybe? So we've had it for a week or two. So I've taken a look at it. I don't have any objections to moving the lines around as you have them moved. The only thing I would add is that this doesn't reflect other places and other lines, and other budgets, rather, that we could still, there's still some flexibility in some lines if we needed to move things around, so.
There's some flexibility in the department lines that we haven't touched.
Right, I just wanna make sure we recognize that, so if we needed to move things around again, so.
Yeah, we can, there's some flexibility, although if they keep on spending, it lessens the possibility.
Well, of course,
You know,
but,
'cause we're seeing more and more POs in the last end of the year than, at the beginning, which is their right,
Yep, so this is a reflection, the changes are within the, not the department budgets, but with the lines that the select board proposes, right?
That is correct.
So just so everyone understands, so, I've reviewed it. Miles, have you had a chance to
I
review
do,
it?
yep.
Okay. Denise, obviously you had a chance to review it because you're the one who proposed it. Or,
Yeah.
I'm happy to approve it so we can be operating under this new one, if you all are.
I'm good, yep.
Okay.
And that's what I'll be bringing to the budget as well, so.
To the
Budget committee meeting in a couple of weeks.
Okay, so fair enough. So they will have it as well. Do you want, one of you want to make a motion then? Then we need to approve the revisions.
Alright.
If Miles makes it, I'll
Sure.
second it, I shouldn't make one
So,
not being there.
I move that we adopt the rebudgeted,
Quarter three rebudget.
quarter three rebudgeted for 2018.
All right, I'll second that.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, so we've taken care of that. Budget planning. So we talked about this a little bit, administrative support. We talked about this on Saturday. I would like us to make a decision as to what direction we want to move, if there is a direction we want to move. As far as administrative support goes for the town. I will go last now, but I want to put this out there first though, Denise. You obviously are not here in the room, and so I don't want to put you at any disadvantage. If you want us to wait until next week, we can wait to vote on this. I don't want to be unfair to anyone, so.
I mean, I don't think I have a problem with making a vote.
Okay. All right, I don't want, because you're not here, I don't want you to feel like you're, I mean, you're participating by a phone, I get that, but I mean, it is different than being in the room, so I don't wanna push anyone if we wanna wait another week, but I would like to, if we're comfortable doing it, to move forward, but if not, well, I'm okay with that too. So are you okay as the person who's not here, moving forward?
We'll see what the conversation goes, and then if I feel like I'm not here being heard, then
You got it.
I would ask for it
That,
to be delayed.
okay, that is fair enough. Are you okay with going that way, Miles?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
All right, so I'm gonna let you both speak first. And it's going to be how you feel we should be handling the administrative support aspect of the 2019 proposed budget. And then I will tell you where I'm coming from, although I think I've already given you a sneak peek on Saturday. So whoever wants to go first. Denise, do you want to go first?
That's fine, yeah.
Okay.
My preference is a town administrator, not a town manager.
Okay.
And, with that said though, I believe that we also have to have a part-time, bookkeeper position to, do, some of the functions that Caroline does now. Because if someone takes over that job as town administrator, then more duties are gonna be put on that job. And so they're gonna have some kind of support as well.
Okay. Miles?
I agree with that completely. I've had a chance to talk with Caroline a bit more about, because that was one of the things I wanted more information on, was what's the shortfall, what's not getting done, and she enlightened me in that area, and I think it's clear we can't really continue on the path we've been going. I think a town administrator makes the most sense at this point for this town, with more administrative support.
All right, well, I guess that's not that much of a contentious argument this evening, because I agree with both of you. And I said this on Saturday, and I'll say it again, my back was to the world as we were being recorded, but I believe that we live in a different time, we live in a different town, we live in a different age, where just because it was good enough at one time to have a part-time administrative assistant, it's just not feasible or logical anymore to have that. You know, I've read through, I'm trying to remember now, I'm having a midlife moment. In the early or mid-1980s, there was a motion at town meeting to make the then administrative assistant to the select board full-time. And it was rejected. Which was a pity because obviously they needed it then too. And they didn't do it. And things have not gotten any easier for folks that serve on the select board. Or who serve in the administrative assistant's position. Because every year, more and more is placed on towns. The state, I think the town clerk just mentioned it, the state gives towns and counties give to towns, more and more to do. More and more responsibilities that at one time maybe the state would have handled, and now they pass over to us. And it's not fair, but it's reality, and we need to be able to handle that. We need a level of expertise in certain things, in certain areas, that no elected select board member, regardless if they're retired or if they're working full-time, necessarily has. It's not only a question of time, of how much time select board members are willing to give. Select board members in this town are given a stipend, they're given a stipend, I think, in every town, but to serve, but it's so we're not doing it for free. I don't want anyone to think that we're not getting some sort of compensation, because we are, and we freely ran with that level of compensation. I'm not arguing that I want more money. The argument is that there are things that you need more expertise, you need more professional help with that select boards, I don't believe, are trained or are equipped to handle anymore. We are what, the second to last town in all of Stratford County to have any kind of administrative, town manager or town administrator. I mean, you know, I talk about the bizarro world of Madbury, but even they have. And this is, I only say that because they didn't have a road agent. The select board handled it. The select board was the road agent forever. Apparently, they just hired their first part-time road agent, who's a retired select board member now. But anyways, but even they have a town administrator to handle things. So there are, in my mind, efficiencies that we are not taking advantage of in this town because we don't have I would say the proper level of staff that's needed to run a municipality. We just don't. We've gotten by for decades without doing things. Well, we can't do that anymore. We shouldn't be doing that anymore. The residents should expect more. So,
Not to mention redundancies.
yeah, there is certainly that issue. I mean, we fell in the board, well, this board, under a former chair, previous chair, fell into that pattern too of previous boards where it was one person doing a lot of the work. And, you know, we've divvied up stuff now, and I don't want people to think that it's the level of the work. It's not just that. I mean, there is a lot to do, but, you know, we signed up to do that. But there's the level of there's nuance to dealing with the State Department of Revenue Administration that didn't exist even 5 years ago, 6 years ago. There are new requirements that they've put on us that I have gone and used that tax portal. I don't pretend to be the smartest person in town. I do have a master's degree, so I'm not a complete fool. I don't think, but maybe I am. I don't know. Some would argue, I'm sure. But it's very difficult to understand that. Now, should every single person that runs for the select board be an expert in using the state's tax portal? Good luck finding in every single town someone's going to be able to do that. But when you have trained staff that specialize in these things, yes, they do. They are the experts in that sort of thing. So, you know, I think about managing contracts where, you know, we try to do the best that we can, and prior boards try to do the best they could too. Are we getting the best bang for our buck for everything that we do? I don't know if we do. You know, for very large projects, we try to issue RFPs. You know, we've, as board, past boards, and we'll see going forward if this will be the same thing we wanna do, but we've stuck with one paving company because we were getting, we had a good relationship with them, we were getting a good deal. And when we've gone out to RFP before, we didn't have the same buying power that large cities and other larger towns have, so we stuck with that one company. But still, is that the best strategy? I mean, when you have a town administrator, and I've talked to other people in other parts of the state where they have these staff members, there's a whole network, there's a support network that they can tap into, so they can get information that they need to help be more efficient, help the town to be more efficient, and to run better. So it's a big change, and then it's not gonna be a huge, well, we don't know yet because we haven't talked about talk about it on Saturday, on the budget side, but it won't be a huge, it should not be, in my opinion, I'm gonna say that, it should not be a huge increase to salaries. There will be an increase for sure if it passes, but are there opportunities to make up savings in other places that we're not taking advantage of? And that's what we need to be thinking about, and that's what we need to be looking for. And that's why I would support doing it. That's also why we've been going through the very painstaking and not always the most logical way of going through this budget, is going line by line together as a group, instead of having, you know, one board member themselves working on it and then talking about it at a workshop or a weekly meeting, where it's a team effort, we're doing this together. To look for places where we can make up the difference, and hopefully we'll do that again on Saturday, to fund this position. So anyways, with that, I will get off my soapbox, and, because we're all in agreement, so there's really no point, but it's, I didn't come to this decision lightly. When people brought it up in years past, I would just sort of roll my eyes and say, please, somehow we're getting by, why do we need this? Well, I'm seeing the real reason why we should have had this all along, so. I mean, it's always easy to criticize when you're not doing the job, I guess, but, and I was guilty of
There's
that.
federal pushbacks to us that is
Yeah.
really causing a lot of those.
Yeah, I mean, it's come
Totally
to a
under
head.
control.
It has come to a head, I think, now, so. But if the voters reject it, they do, so I mean, they will, you know, they're the final arbiters, of course, so, as they should be. So, with that, what I'd like to do this evening, I'd like to have a motion to formally adopt the position that we're going to add into the 2019 operating budget, the position of town administrator. And then we will deal with the financial piece on Saturday at our workshop. So
Okay. What about like a job description? I think we'll fill in that
we
blank.
will, yeah, well, that we will work on for sure, but what I would like is the authorization this evening to move forward as a board, so we can plug in a number into our budget workshop, so we can start really finalizing a lot of the things we've been thinking about in the abstract, and we can talk about other pieces that we haven't been able to focus on yet for salaries and things like that, after this vote.
Okay, so I'll make
I'm
that,
sorry, then we can figure out the logistics of what the position looks like.
okay,
But we need to have a line where we can add it in and then.
plug that in, yeah.
Then we
So
can.
so I'll make that motion to create the position of town administrator for the town of Rollinsford.
I'll second.
Within the 2019 budget process?
Within the 2019 budget process.
Okay. And I will second that, unless Denise just did, but
I
I'll.
just did.
Okay, all right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So on
What
Saturday,
about the part-time position though? Because I think you have to have both.
I don't disagree, but within our budget right now, we have, what is it called? It's called administrative support, right?
Administrative.
Finance and
Oh, okay,
administrative
so we
secretary.
leave that one in and we're just adding this other one as well.
Correct, correct.
Okay, thank you.
And Miles brought up a very, actually, I shouldn't say this, but whenever we bring up things, whenever you all bring up anything, it's valid, because it's what you want to talk about. We bring up a very valid point that we need a job, there's a lot more than just saying, oh, we're gonna create this, and what we do, we're gonna move on. We need to have job description, we need to look at what exactly we would want out of this person, and what the number would represent that we're gonna be putting into the budget. So now we have authorized ourselves to move forward within our budget workshop process to create that line, and then we can decide what that looks like. So we've moved on for that at least, and move on to the next thing, so.
Okay.
All right. We have health insurance alternatives.
I've heard nothing as of yet, which I'm not surprised, it's only
Yeah.
been
Right.
a couple of days.
Caroline did forward, late in the day, so I didn't have a chance. I came home from another meeting I had and changed and came here. So I haven't looked at it yet, but she did forward on some numbers on insurance,
Okay.
some harder numbers that we didn't have yet.
Oh,
On workers' comp, liability, and there's one other thing I'm drawing a blank on. So we'll have that for Saturday as well
okay.
to work on. But I'm not surprised that we haven't gotten any additional info
Yeah, workers' comp, liability, and unemployment.
from our carrier yet. So I would be concerned if we don't have anything by next week, but, because we should be a little more responsive, but. Okay, so can we move off of the budget for now? And we'll talk, because we'll be talking about it for hours on Saturday, so. Newsletter. So, tell me. How, I saw that you sent an email out to department heads and committees and
Yeah,
commissions and things. Have you heard anything back from anyone
No.
yet? Okay.
no, I'm gonna have to get on.
Okay, so that work is ongoing, and I talked to Caroline today. I've got to keep working on a draft of what we just voted on, actually. The alternatives to
Mhm.
the town administrator, or a manager, or nothing.
And the other thing I thought that we need to have something about recycling and the changes to
Yeah, we do.
recycling.
We certainly do. Okay. We could talk to Ed and see
Yeah,
what he was just putting in there. But you're right, we do need to have some more information about that, because there's ever evolving. What can be recycled and what doesn't go, so.
yeah, I mean, it affects everybody, how they
Right.
store things.
Right, exactly, no, I get it, so we, not to mention there's a financial, excuse me, cost to the town if
If we
it's not
don't,
done correctly, so,
right.
for sure, okay. All right. All right, so I'll follow up with Ed and Caroline to see what they think would be good in there. Anything else from the newsletter?
Nope.
The only other thing, I talked to the tax collector today,
Yes.
and that was one of the questions we had for the budget, but we won't talk about it more then, but she had mentioned that the company that we're going through, and the name escapes me at the moment, but over in Allenstown, I think they are. They will include the newsletter. It
Mhm.
just, like last year, it has to be on one page of legal
Right.
folded.
Yeah,
And if we wanted, and there's no additional cost, so they'll include that, so. But if we're gonna go over, there will be additional costs. We wanna make sure we keep it just to one page, double-sided, so, legal size, so it's big, but, so we need to be, as you know, judicious in what we put in or we don't put in, so. All right. Deliberative session date, we have set ours. We set a snow date, and the school set theirs, and their snow date. Their date is our snow date. So to be fair to them, I would suggest that we move ours to Wednesday. We had ours on Tuesday, let me see, let me pull it up here. Where is it? So, what is it? I'm looking for it, and it's not popping up in my phone. Oh, come on. Do you remember what,
trying to, I don't see it myself. Is it this guy?
I don't know why it's not coming in here. Oh, I don't know. I sent an email about it, so it's not
Conservation.
on my calendar anymore for some
School,
reason.
here it is.
Do you have it?
Yeah. So. We set ours for the 2nd with a snow date of the 5th.
Mm-hmm.
And they set theirs for the 5th, I assume, with a snow date of the 9th.
Yes. So, yeah, so why is it not, oh no, I'm concerned it's not on my calendar anymore. February 2nd, I opened that up, it's not there, it's not good. For some reason Groundhog's Day is in there twice, but not, I'm very concerned about remembering it's Groundhog's Day. And then Lunar New Year shows up, but not, okay. So, anyways, so our snow date was gonna be the 5th. I would suggest, to be fair to the school district, we move ours to the 6th.
Yep.
But we keep our, obviously the first date on, February 2nd. Is there any objection to that?
No.
You okay with that, Denise?
Yes.
Okay, so we will move our snow date to February 6th. And we'll send an email off to the school and let them know. Oh, my phone is slowly dying here, Denise, so I gotta step up on it. Okay, so, fire pond, abatement, we've, so Avatar, met with Mr. Lavin, to discuss the possibility of granting the abatement, based on the information that is a fire pond. Obviously, you both heard the conversation with the fire chief. I think there's two pieces to this. We would need to allow, if we were to move forward with the abatement request, it's past the time for those requests. If it is legitimate that it's a fire pond, and it's in good working order, it's accessible and all of that, we would need to decide on whether or not we even want to entertain looking at granting an abatement past the deadline. But before that, I think really we need to make sure that it's actually in good working order, it's accessible, and all of that. And Mark has agreed to go down and take a look at that. So
Yeah.
that's my long-winded way of saying I think we should table this until we have more information from the fire chief, unless there's objection. Okay. So we will table that. The next, bus stop, Upper Mill, question mark. Do we
I
know?
can give you a little info on that.
Okay, thank you.
The, tank at town hall,
Oh, Denise?
that, we're looking to possibly relocate because, I mean, the kids are jumping on the rails on the town hall portico. There's a lot of activity there that we shouldn't be having because of the, condition of the town hall, to be honest. Someone's gonna get hurt or something's gonna get destroyed. So by having the bus stop there, it kind of, you bringing the kids to the spot you don't want them to hang out in. So we're looking to possibly find another location for the downtown kids to pick up the bus.
So, just thinking about the process, so, what I would imagine we would need to do, if we agree with asking the school board to move it, we would need to notify the school board that we would no longer, we would prefer that they find a new pickup and drop-off location within the village, because we don't want it there. And then we give them a deadline and they figure it out by then.
Yeah, and they have to run it by the busing company as well. But, there was a couple of spots that was talked about is, the one of them is down by the lower mill, where the kids can be off by the parking lot, they could be waiting there and not be physically on the road. And that was the other one, was it, maybe by the corner of the garage there? was a possibility maybe.
Paul.
By Paul's Integrity, by there?
Over at Delta Garage, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's mostly just to get them away from the portico area.
Right. All right. Well, I will, I have mixed feelings about this. And I will tell you right up front, I am the ogre that gets his mail in the morning and typically has to come flying across the street and yell at children to stop damaging town property. A couple times a week, actually, to the point now they see my car coming and they stop, so. But, I actually had, one morning as a child was pulling the, it's now changed, but the railing out of the hole it was in. Bob had just pulled in, so I went down and asked him to go talk to them, so I didn't have to. And that child now stands over by the other end of the town hall. He doesn't even go near the steps, but that doesn't mean he hasn't been replaced by someone else, so. So there's that. I one day had to tell kids to stop because they were karate kicking the columns. I'm waiting one day to fall out as they're rotting away. So I get it. I'm the first one to say, you know, kids get off my lawn. But I'm also concerned about their safety. But where's another safe location? And that's going to be the school's problem. I get that. That's not our problem. And I don't want to create problems. From what I read in the paper, the school district has their own problems that they're going to have to deal with. So I don't want to create more for them. But I get it. I don't like them being here either anymore. And I don't know if there was ever a time when kids didn't do it. So I don't want to say it's a new thing, but I would be concerned about Paul's area. And in the morning, I don't think that, well, it's up to the owners of the mills. They would have to say, give their blessing. But in the morning shouldn't be any issue because there's never any cars down there. But in the afternoon, it's always, the parking lot's always packed. So, but again, that would be the school district's, the school board's issue to deal with, I guess. But so, I've talked enough. Miles, what do you think?
So this is where the bus stop has always been, or been for?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah.
I hate to ask the question, are there parents hanging around?
No. Well, there was one morning.
There are some. I mean, it isn't all the kids there, but there's a good amount of kids. And my biggest concern is that stuff is not stable. Someone's going to get hurt, and then it's on us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree
Either
with that.
that or move, if we have to keep it where it is, move it on the other side towards the apartments.
Yeah.
Not where it is.
All right.
You know, because at least it's not as dangerous over there. There's no thing that they're going to climb all over.
One morning when there were children trying to pull the railing out, they weren't successful that morning. And then karate chopping, kicking the columns. There was a, I don't know if he's a parent or he's an adult at least in age, was standing there with his hands in his pockets, not doing anything, or telling. It might not have been his kid, I don't know, but
Yeah, telling the kids not to
not
do
to
it,
say,
yeah.
hey, what are you doing? Why don't you stop doing that? I mean, I had to go over from the post office and say, guys, you gotta stop. You can't be doing this. I don't want anyone to think I go out and screaming at children. I don't do that, but I do tell them to stop. I mean, but,
Well, is it, I mean, is it safe in general? I mean, it's a parking lot, like, I know no one's probably there at 7 in the morning, whatever time the kids get picked up, but
yeah.
is there really a safe place?
No, there's vehicle traffic in and out, actually. There's, people park there sometimes and run across to the post office and there's not parking spaces available. People waiting to come into the police department, you know, there's cars always I see coming in and out. And then there's parents that are bringing their kids and the kids wait in the car with them if it's cold, you know, and then they hop out for the bus. So there's cars in and out. So there is that too, I don't know. The only other thing I could think of too, Denise, is when it's raining, the kids tend to huddle underneath the front steps to get out of the rain too. So I mean, that's what I say, I have mixed emotions about
It's
this.
something that we have to make a decision on tonight, but something that we should stay on the agenda and just think about possibilities. You know, it's just trying to solve a problem that tends to get worse and worse, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I would and go and talk to some kids that were doing it
Oh, really?
on
After all this?
Saturday. Right after we left.
Hmm.
And, because instead of walking up the stairs, they're jumping on the pole outside and climbing up the rail.
Yeah.
If someone is gonna get hurt.
And it's not even just that, I mean, there's the retaining wall there, it's not very large, but where the flowers are and the flagpole,
Yep.
and they've destroyed that in places.
Mm-hmm.
They jump all over the flowers, I mean, I don't sound like that person, but I don't know what's wrong with these kids. But it's
Yeah.
just,
So,
really,
it's not a decision you have to make tonight. Let's think on it and talk about it again next week. It's just want to get it out. We want to have a conversation about it.
okay, so we'll table that for
You know?
next week then?
Yeah, just kind of think about what you think we can do. Because I don't think there's any spot downtown that's great.
No,
Because
I don't
there's nothing off the road enough
All right,
that isn't on personal or business property. That's the problem.
all right.
How about the church parking lot?
I don't
What
know.
is it?
Some may say, what about the church parking lot? I don't know, that would be the school board's decision, I
Yeah.
think. I don't know.
Oh, that's a possibility though, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, they may say it's too far. So, I mean, I don't wanna speak for the school board, they can figure it out on their own, but there's no, I would be concerned about the kids crossing the train tracks, that's all. I mean, there is the safe way to go on the sidewalk by the Patterson's house, but I'm guessing, and I don't wanna cast aspersions, but if there are certain children that can't figure out it's not a good idea to try to destroy the town hall, they might not be the smartest kids about crossing the train tracks, so I don't want anyone to get hurt, so I'm just saying, I mean, maybe that's not fair to them, but anyway, so we'll table it for now, if everyone's all right with that, we'll come back to it, but it is a good thing to talk about.
Yeah.
So the next thing we have up is recreation, the snack refunds, do we know, I should have asked Dee when she was sitting in front of me, actually.
Oh,
I
you
can
know what,
ask,
I'll get an answer for you. I forgot to ask Dee about that.
I can ask, one of her cohorts has made the mistake of sitting through the meeting, so she's still here, I can ask her if there's no objection.
I-
Do we know?
Celia?
I do not know
Okay.
anything about the snack refunds for Camp Raleigh.
Okay, so we'll follow, I should look down and talk to Dee about it, I just,
Yeah,
Have you
Dee
got
and
another,
Kelly were the ones that were gonna do it, I think.
okay, so if we can follow up on that, because I know the auditor will wanna know. All right, so we're gonna table that then. All right, so we come to standing items, board member activities, what's going on this week?
So I hope to get some more information on some insurance options, and of course, our budget workshop on Saturday.
Did the planning board met last week?
Planning board met, yes, it was last week.
And is there any update on
Um,
how things went?
So we elected a new chair.
Who's the chair?
Caroline has agreed to be the chair, was a little
Okay.
reluctant, but.
I can imagine.
We had one application before us from Mr. Jennison to combine his two lots on Bear Road, which puts an end to the discussion
Oh.
about building a house on his back
Okay,
lot.
and now, okay.
That was approved.
Oh, okay.
We also talked about some changes to zoning ordinances, which will be on the ballot. I think we stopped at 4 changes. I don't remember what those are in front of me, but some are required about accessory dwelling units.
Yes, yes.
The building permit
Oh, yes,
will be proposed to be changed as well.
okay.
I don't know if you saw the email from, there's a resident that is interested in, the alternate spot that's open on the planning board.
Was it someone who wanted to be on the
Conservation Committee.
And that's, so, I saw that.
Yeah,
Someone didn't take that up.
yeah, John Hinsman had reached back out to him,
Just see if he was still interested.
yeah,
Okay.
I don't know where that's.
And if he is, if he can send us an email and we can have a conversation with him. I don't know who he is, I've never met him,
So
so
it sounds like he's new to town, he's a civil engineer.
could be helpful.
Yeah.
All right. Denise, what do you have going on this week?
I think I'm pretty open because rec got canceled for tomorrow, so I just have Saturday. Thank goodness.
All right, well, I also have Saturday, and I have something else that The historic committee's been trying to meet, let's see the calendar, it's not this week though, I'm in February now. Let me go back, let's see, what do I have? I guess I'll be in tomorrow here at Town Hall to go through, all the decisions we made tonight and talk about, the meeting with Caroline, things that she needs to follow up with, things I need to follow up with, and then, getting ready for Saturday, so, I like week, I guess, but, all right, that's it for activities, I guess, unless something else pops up, I'm sure I'll go to it, or we'll go to it, so, yeah.
Okay, Mike, I think I'm gonna sign off.
You don't wanna listen to building
I'm
permits?
getting panicky.
Okay, all right, well, get better and we'll, feel better and we'll talk to you on Saturday, hopefully.
I'll see you on that. Thank you for letting me do
Of
this
course.
tonight.
All right, have a good night, Denise.
Okay, good night, guys.
Bye.
Good night.
Perfect timing, because I've got 7% left in my battery.
I'll forget.
I need a new battery now.
All right, building permits?
Yep.
So what is the procedure? Just read off.
Why don't I just do it for tonight, and
Sure.
then you'll know for next week, how's
Okay.
that? All right, so first building permit we have is 2018-098. You can see that. 5 Cottage Lane. They are replacing part of their roof. And it is a $155 fee, so we do permit granted. Expires, we usually give them a year. So, we'll do at least till, well, this is the, I'm sure it's already been done, but I'll give them till June 30th of next year, and then sign it. And at least 2 board members have to sign it, and it's been reviewed by Mr. Clark. The next is permit 2018-56, 501 Silver Street. Oh, well, she hung up just in time. They are doing some siding work. Mr. Clark has reviewed it, it's a $305 fee. We come up with a new system, but I don't remember what it is. I think I'm just supposed to read the number and move on, but I don't know, I like doing it this way. Permit, unless you object, I don't hear it, so. 2018-094, it's no, it's not, okay, there we go. 439 Spruce Street, it's a Chinburg property like Newmarket. It is probably new construction. It is, been reviewed by Mr. Clark, it is a $2,145 fee. We like those. And then I'll just go back on the folder. So, and then we have, it was reviewed by Mr. Clark, but I didn't say that, that pretty much goes without saying. 2018-095, 412 Railroad Avenue. It's replacing and relocating a swimming pool with a deck. Trying to, you know, the lot was that big, but it's been, yeah, well, clearly, there's enough space. It's been reviewed, good for him. I didn't realize it went as far back as it does, whatever. It is a $205 fee. Uh, 2018-097, 10 Highland Avenue. What are they doing? It's replace a countertop, sink, faucet, and kitchen. So some minor renovations, I guess. It's been reviewed by Mr. Clark, a $75 fee. And that appears to be the end of those, and we have 2 deed of burial lots. The first is number NT 18-06. Trying to find out where it's for 4 lots, 4 graves rather. Total cost is $700. Next is deed of burial lot number NT 18-07. It is for 2 graves. Total cost is $350. And then just go back in this red folder, all the stuff. And that's how we handle the red folder. Unless something crazy, then we play it by ear. We wing it, so.
Next up is our correspondence. So we have a letter to FEMA from the Rollinsford Select Board. It's the policy of the town of Rollinsford that all employees are subject to overtime earnings, time and a half for hours worked after 40 hours within the same work week, Sunday through Saturday. Please let us know if you have any questions. Looking for your signature.
So you know what this is, FEMA, as a requirement for the reimbursement that the police chief is trying to get for the town.
Yep.
FEMA needed this, so if there's no objection, I will sign the letter.
No objection.
Kind of what I want,
And here is a letter to Smutty Nose Properties LLC, to whom it may concern. The select board has been apprised of the following activity: 31 South Street, demolition and construction of stairs. It is quite likely that the above activity requires a building permit, et cetera, et cetera. Looking for your
Alright.
signature on
Yep,
that one.
so, compliance letter for 31 South Street, demolition and construction of new stairs. If there's no objection, I will
No objection.
send that off to them.
Also a compliance letter for 579 Main Street,
Yep.
the renovations.
Yes. So, if there's no objection, I will sign it. There was, as I was going to town hall this morning, there was a lumber delivery truck delivering, I don't know, an awful lot of sheetrock through a second-story window.
Oh.
So, we're doing some renovations of some kind, and when I left, they still weren't done, and I was there for, I don't know, 2 hours, so they were busy over there. So, we don't have a building permit from them, so hopefully we'll get one.
Okey-doke. Next up, we have letters from Primex on property and liability insurance, workers' comp, and unemployment compensation. I don't know if there's something that needs to be acted on with these, or if this
I think this is for
information
Saturday.
for the budget, yes.
So what I would say, yeah, these are description of the rate changes,
Okay.
some are going down in some cases, okay. So why don't we say hold for budget. Apparently I can't spell either. No,
That's good.
we'll pull that over and we can stick that back and we'll shake
Okay.
that, awesome.
So similarly, I think there's a letter from Health Trust here to Suzanne with medical
The rates?
coverage rates. Yep.
But we discussed those on
Last-
Saturday, right? That's where the 10% increase.
Yes. Yep. So I think we're,
I was maybe just write on hold for Saturday. I mean, we've discussed it, but just so we have it there, it's in the folders, we can all look at it when the time comes.
okey doke. Stratford Regional Planning Commission, dear Mr. Rolo. The Stratford Regional Planning Commission understands that the majority of our member communities are now preparing their municipal budgets, and therefore we are providing the following information for your budget committee's consideration. The executive committee recommended to the full commission a 2.9% increase in the per capita rate. This increase is tied to the June 17 to June 18 CPI, all items. Additionally, there was population adjustment, as dues for fiscal year 2020 were based on the 2017 population estimates. So they're looking for an increase in the dues?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find this on here. there it is.
It should be towards the bottom.
Yep. So it looks like, I don't know what the $111.90 change.
Charges. Alright, I'll just hold it for Saturday, so
Yeah.
we make sure we have enough of the, if we decide we wanna stay, to use pay member of the regional planning commission. We will have an actual dollar amount.
Workers' compensation law notice of compliance. And it looks like they're looking for a signature.
Okay, let's see. Required by law to report promptly to your employer on occupational injury, disease, to employer, sorry. Required to display this poster so that it will be of the greatest possible benefit. Okay, so it's just, this is a, so everyone knows, this is the notice, for the employees. It gets hung up, so they know what their rights are under workers' compensation, and who to call, that sort of thing. And then, I guess as chair, is supposed to sign it, so I will sign it.
This is the same letter. Stratford Regional Planning.
Okay.
It's not, one was a photocopy and one was the, over here. And then next, I don't quite understand this, but I'll read it. To Mark Wentworth, president of Wentworth Greenhouses.
Call it.
Oh, is that?
I don't know, but this is what usually happens in DES.
DES has completed its compliance evaluation of Wentworth Greenhouses located at 141 Rollins Road. The compliance evaluation included an on-site inspection September 27, 2018. Did not identify deficiencies during the compliance evaluation. It is recommended that Wentworth Greenhouse explore energy efficiency incentive program at NewHampshireSaves.com. So, looks like they are in
In compliance,
compliance.
well, that's good to know. Usually,
And who is that from?
DES.
DS.
Environmental Services. And we have a leaflet from Health Trust annual meeting, which will take place December 6th at 9 a.m. In Concord. I don't know if
You
this-
like insurance, Miles.
I like
You wanna
insurance.
go to their annual meeting?
I can
I'm
check
sure it'll be
the
exciting.
date. It's December 6th. I can check the date and see if I'm available. I can write that down.
But you don't want to.
Yeah, interesting. That's it.
Yeah, is that it? I should know what comes next by now, but no more, no other correspondence?
No other
Did we-
correspondence.
Did you sign checks?
Sign check.
And the payroll slips, did we get all those signed?
That's an excellent question. No. Oh, I didn't realize I had to sign.
You can do it or I can do it, man.
Sure. Do you want-
Oh, is this payroll week?
Yep,
I can do it.
okay.
It's
You'll need to submit one at the end of the meeting then.
Yeah.
Okay, so, we will do,
Here, I assume.
Yes.
yeah, why don't you sign it right now, then we'll stop as doing hers, we can, I don't wanna, just gotta take notes for community input, so.
You might-
That's all the folders then?
That's all the folders.
Mercy me, okay.
This has been through the photocopier some amount of
Yeah,
time.
probably. You'll get to the police after a while, and then just have to sign Bob's, and then he, as a supervisor, he signs all the other ones.
Okay. So it's this guy with the paperclip.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, just don't know.
That's from the library trustees, that's taken care of.
Okay. That's all of those, that's taken care of.
It's usually everything after the paper clip, I just signed it.
Okay. Some That's that.
Community input. Yes,
Celia Leopold, I was wondering, as you explore the new software for the town clerk,
Mhm.
and it expands into credit cards, if other town departments would be able to use that or not? Is the
If it
question,
would benefit,
because
good
it
question.
may reduce, some of the fees like the rec department pays, for their processing credit cards.
I'm making a note of it right now. I clearly don't know the answer, but she's supposed to forward the information that she got from Avatar. I will look and see. Software.
I just don't know if it's specific to the town clerk or can transfer to other departments.
I mean, what she showed us all looked like it was just in her wheelhouse, but it doesn't mean that it's not, I don't know.
Or if
It could
like,
be beneficial to others.
another department can piggyback on it for a small fee.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a very valid question, which I don't know the answer to.
And not that it has to do with you, but I have asked in the past why the bus stop does not go across the tracks. Because only those kids in the neighborhood near St. Mary's are the only ones that have to cross the train tracks and the main road to get to a bus stop. And I've been told that it's based on the number of kids that live in that area, and,
So the bus makes
Probably.
one stop
In the
downtown.
village,
yeah.
Yep.
And the number of kids in the area that would utilize that bus. So if there were 25 kids over there that would utilize the bus, they might go over there.
Yeah, I'm happily deflecting to the school board, but I have no idea how they decide that.
Yeah.
Although I hear they don't answer questions, so I don't know. I don't know.
I would tend to agree with that.
What I was told anyways. Tell me.
Well, I have a couple of things, 3 actually, but based on that, couldn't there be some consequences for these children? Like community service that the police would enforce?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I don't know. I think that, yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous
I
to
don't
allow
disagree
it
with
to
you.
just happen and have nothing happen to them.
I don't disagree with that either.
They could be cleaning out cross street and picking up trash, and I'm sure there's lots of stuff we could find for them to do.
I'll make a note of it. I don't know if that's even feasible. I don't know, I don't know.
think it would have to, like, some actual damage would have to be incurred, and maybe it has, I don't
Maybe it
know.
had to be adjudicated through the
Yeah.
juvenile system. I don't think we can. I don't know though. I'll make a note and I'll ask the chief. I don't know.
I would do that. Then the other is welfare. You typically tell me what the decision was.
Thank you. I'm amateurs. All right. All right, so let's go back in time. Thank you. So, in welfare case 2018-008, the board is taking no action. Sorry about that, Sonia.
No, that's all right.
Got all about it all the time.
And then the third thing I had was about the tax bills. Are you not gonna have the Rollinsford Post Office mail them?
We're gonna discuss that on Saturday at the workshop.
Okay.
I got information
Okay.
from the tax collector that we had questions, last week, I guess, when we were talking about it, and, when I was in today, I talked to her about it, and I told her I would relay the information back to the board, so,
Okay.
during the workshop, so. We will make that,
I'm in favor of us giving all our business to our local post office.
all right, I will note
I
that
would
as
like
well.
to keep them in business.
Especially since how they're talking about maybe closing some.
Yes, right. And they are, and I can see, it's just not a good situation.
All right, any other community comments or questions, complaints, anything? All right, seeing none, we are going to adjourn at about 9:15. We'll see all of you that are interested on Saturday morning at 9 AM right here.
See ya.
Is there a ball game tonight? Is there a Sox playing tonight?
Good, 1:30.
What do they have tonight? What did it say, a travel day?
No,
At 7.
Follow.
They played 2 games since the travel.
Usually we're
Say
at
it's
6,
travel
but
day.
it's.
Good game yesterday.
The 23rd.
At least they won.
Okay.
Better than the night before. Good lord. Patriots game was dramatic too.
Oh, was it?
Mike, I think we're doing the 7th for historic. If you can.
Is that, I put it in my calendar just in case, so.
That's when most people said
No,
that
the
they
reason why I
can
said
come.
that, 'cause it's still posted.